All right. Good evening, everybody. I was supposed to have dinner before I started streaming, and then I did something really stupid and started brushing my teeth. And I'd much rather not have the, lasagna toothpaste combo. So I may take a break partway through the broadcast. But we're back to. I'm also. The thing is, I'm getting close to sort of the tail end of my starting window, so I wanted to at least get the broadcast started, and then I'll worry about maintaining my mortal flesh later. It's a little bit that I wanted to just sort of get through housekeeping wise, but let's open up the game and we can chat after.
Titan. Everyone comes to Titan with a dream.
Olaf,
Our
how you doing?
moon is one of limitless wealth. There are ancient riches here for those with the strength to claim them. But some dreams start smaller. A better life, more dignity, more comfort. Today, Titan is a place where you can buy those dreams, where anyone can profit. But it isn't easy. You have to prove yourself here. Those who settle here take that risk. And without their diligent labor, our power grid would fail. Pollution would overwhelm us. And our trade would collapse. It's hard work, but on Titan, hard work isn't enough. The bold, the strong, those are the people Titan rewards. Those are the ones who see their dreams through. Exceptional people. Friends to the Council. That is why we're giving you this opportunity, Founder. We expect great things from you. Make sure you live up to our expectations.
It's actually funny you mentioned that, Olaf. So one of the things I was going to talk about was my workplace is now declared that we have to go into work. There's like a hybrid thing that they're doing, which seems to be maximizing. It seems to be maximizing the inefficiency and like the unpleasantness of going into the office, while like also maximizing the disruption that comes from working at home. So it's, and like the thing that's kind of funny about it is that it was, so there was a rumor that it was coming. What was fascinating is that there was a document that was apparently given to senior management that was leaked, and like it was from this psychologist consultant, and it was basically something like how to make people do things that they don't want to do. Like it is just this spectacularly bad document, bad in psychology as well as just like the sort of thing you want to hear your management is reading. And like I'm thinking back to the multiple times I have suggested this software solution to a very long-standing and unsolved problem, and I think like if I were to personally subscribe to this thing, I think it would be like $15. So it's like, oh yeah, so we've got we've got the money to hire a psychologist to, make this absolutely insane document about how to force people back to work. I mean, the way you force people back to work is just say, go back to work, and you are not working here if you don't come back to the office, right? What bothers me is they've paid to essentially be given that recommendation, thinking that they are going to get some kind of result other than an incredibly annoyed workforce. But the real cherry on top is that when so some people in my division got word of this and brought it up with the director, who then tried to, put a brave face on and say, well, let's not start rumors, and we should probably experiment with different styles before it's imposed on us, and so on and so forth. So they even had like a little bit of, like, to me, I'm just like, okay, well, this is, clearly this is just salami slicing. Like, we're going to wind up wherever, senior management wants us. But it seemed like they got a little bit of buy-in on people, like, giving this experiment a try. But before they could even do that, this like order comes down in terms of the timing of that. For context, the province I live in is currently experiencing a new wave. I think my third booster is sort of wearing off. Of course, the bivalent vaccines haven't been developed yet. They're coming, or maybe they've been developed, but they're not available yet. And so, the funny thing is that if we had proposed this at any previous time during the pandemic, this would have been listed as spectacularly irresponsible. We've also gotten like multiple communications from senior management about how much the workforce is liking work from home and how much more productive we apparently are. And of course, we're just pretending none of that ever happened. So with that in mind, like, I went out, I spent $20 on some N95 masks, which means that I basically haven't shaved since the pandemic started. Like, the occasional trim now and then, but like, I've had a truly disgusting and very full beard for a long time. So I spent the better part of the early evening shaving. I've actually maintained a friendly trucker up to this point. At least this is what I've heard it's called. Because you can hide that under an N95. I'm very seriously considering keeping it as just a silent protest to being told to go back to work. But seeing your comment, Olaf, I actually can't have coffee because I am physically showing up at the office today, which means that I need to add like probably an hour for a commute, if I'm honest with myself. And I've actually been having a lot of trouble sleeping lately. I've been going to bed, I've been trying to get into bed like around like 10 or 11 just to try and catch up on some of the sleep that I've been missing, but I've been falling asleep at like 5, which is just a disaster. So I've pretty much, I had a coffee this morning, and I will probably go back to having like a coffee in the morning. But yeah, like at this point, I'm being really, really stressed. I've even dropped the tea at this point just because I need to try and get things. Oh, darn it. I forgot to write today too. Sorry. I've got a streak going. I've been writing every day for a few weeks now. So I actually also have to add some time after stream. Anyways, sorry, 1 second. I just need to sip some water. Man, it is weird to be drinking stuff without so many blockages. Anyways, actually, so there's one quick thing we're gonna do. There's other stuff that's on my mind, but I don't want the start of the stream to be a bunch of complaints. But seeing as you mentioned this, Olaf, I'm actually gonna send a photo to Ari because she's probably gonna laugh at this. So just give me a second. All right, sorry, that was longer than I was expecting. Yeah, I did want to send off a silly message to Miss Ariella, and then I wound up dealing with a bunch of other stuff. I'm always reluctant to talk about this video because the result is usually people just go and look for it, and I don't like it when people go and look for it. And even when I say that, inevitably I get comments from people who went out and looked at it, and I think the thing that amuses me the most is that they act very hurt when I am pretty clear that I'm unhappy that they did that. So please don't look it up. And if you do, you know what the response is going to be. But yeah, there's a video that I did years ago. It's one of my worst casts. And it was one where I wanted to talk about something at the start, and I was late for broadcasting, and I was very scattered. And I mean, this will happen in Cultist Simulator too. Like, I'll reference a lore thing, and like, I just totally get it wrong. And like, the thing is that you can go and record the video, or you can put disclaimers or whatever, but like, mistakes happen, and it's honestly, it'd be better if we just pretended that, we stopped pretending that broadcasters didn't make mistakes. But in any case, the thing about this is that for some reason the YouTube algorithm has taken this particular broadcast. Like, there's actually some broadcasts I'm quite proud of, and I really wish that they had gotten a bigger viewership. But that's not the one that the algorithm picked up. The one that the algorithm picked up is one that provokes an extremely unkind comments. It's actually one of the few videos where I'm willing to delete not all but most of the comments. And there was this nice period where it seemed like something had corrected, and that either the algorithm was directing people away, or was just recommending something else, or just generally like I didn't have to deal with it. And for some reason, it seems to have been rediscovered. I've been getting a few notes, and one of the things about YouTube is that when you reply, like it'll show you the stuff you haven't replied to right away. And then the stuff you've already replied to doesn't show up in that window. So generally I try to reply to stuff on YouTube. That particular video I've said is like, just no more. I'm not engaging with it. What I have done, that was one of the main videos that made me decide to monetize the channel, because I thought at least if I'm going to get abuse from people, I might as well see some money from it. And again, like, it's better performing than like most of these Titan videos. But still, it's one of these things where intellectually and like largely as a whole, it's like, whatever. These are like, first of all, these are people who I don't know, and they don't really know what I'm about. It's a little embarrassing to be reminded about like a cast that, you didn't necessarily do a great job about, but like, whatever, these things happen. And more importantly, too, like, the kind of person who just wants to be unkind on YouTube is not really somebody that you should be thinking about online. But with that in mind, like, I am still somewhat of the temperament. I think this kind of comes from being a smaller broadcaster, right? Is that most of your interactions are going to be with individual people. I've been very lucky with Industries of Titan and, people inside of chat and Cultist Simulator. To have actually very positive and encouraging people come out. Every once in a while there's going to be somebody who's a pain to deal with, but there was a while when I would get a little bit of like a sick feeling every time I saw a YouTube comment, and that changed for a while. And unfortunately for the last week, that's changed back, where I actually feel kind of bad now whenever I see a YouTube comment pop up. And then, of course, the side effect that, because I want to reward the nice comments by responding to them, every time I now open YouTube, I've kind of got a string of, mean-spirited ones. And then on top of that, the subscription numbers very slowly trickled down over the last week. So I am just generally feeling a bit low for really trivial reasons. Sorry, I just have a quick thing to deal with on the other window. But yeah, like it's been a bit of a ride. So it's work from work tomorrow. Feeling less of a special broadcaster over the past week, and also just not getting enough sleep. But on the other hand, too, like, it's one of the reasons. So the next question is, why don't you just turn off comments for that video? And I'm kind of inclined to be honest, but I also think I kind of need to learn to be able to get over it. And if I keep hiding from that sort of stuff, I'm not sure. Like, the thing is, if I do want to grow the channel, that's eventually going to have to be something that I just need to deal with, full stop. But I mean, on the other hand, too, like, I don't know, like, I try to pretend, or not to pretend that I'm perfect and that my mistakes didn't happen. But I have thought more often about just sort of putting a hard cap in terms of the old videos, and only making sure that sort of the new stuff goes up moving forward. But I also know that there's people who would have really, who actually like going through some of the old stuff. So I need to figure out the answer on that. But anyways, that's one of the reasons why I was a bit late. I wanted to send something silly off to Ariella, and then I had just a little flock of emails kind of come in, and I'm like, I shouldn't check this. I should just get to my cast. But then I'm like, well, you know what? That's just going to bother me. So sorry to be a downer at the start to 22 minutes in. Jesus. And we haven't played the game yet. So from here, it's all going to be uphill. Uphill implies work. It's going to be smooth sailing. Companies can afford to shell out for slick adverts if only the average citizen could actually afford their wares. Also, with that in mind, please don't take that as purely negative, because there is actually one nice thing to take out of it, which is if you're here, thank you very much for being here and being supportive. Olaf, Purple's Art, and all of the lurkers. Okay. I'm going to unpause just to see where we're sitting resource-wise, and I want to get a bit of a read on the current situation. So I know we just finished the Rebels, and we're going to be... So this is kind of a phase where I should be trying to expand very rapidly, and I've got two... So the funny thing is I really don't need to build the isotope... the mine for the isotopes, and I don't really need to build the mine for the minerals right away. I've actually got enough from the patches that should be able to keep me going. But I want to at least get things like the factories down, and I want to start thinking about how I'm going to build out a sort of a residential and business area. So I've noticed that the wind has always been sort of going, if this is, I guess this is north. So I don't know, southwest, does that count? It's on a triangle, so it's a little tricky. Anyways, it seems to have pretty consistently been heading down this way. So clearly, as far as the smokestack's concerned, this is a good placement. There's maybe a little bit to worry about in terms of things like the sinkhole and all of that. But like overall, this is not a bad place to be putting my, my residential and office buildings. There's going to be a little bit of finessing that I need to do. I need to either clear out these ruins, or I need to find a way around sort of this side of things. Because you've got this inert ruin that absorbs pollution. I think the worry was going to be that I was going to build... yeah, I guess the worry was that I was going to build some turbines. Mind you, I can build the turbines here, and that should be able to cover me. Still, there's better uses for my artifacts right now. Also, I'll try and do a better job of explaining what's going on Purple's Art, but I actually need a minute to think this through for myself. Assuming everybody's still here, maybe I might have just been enough of a sad sack that I turned everyone off. Sorry, belatedly. So, yeah. The game will model both positive and negative effects of production. So you have like when you produce something. You will produce, when you refine, let's say, a mineral, you are going to have the mineral, the higher tier mineral, which is good, but you're also going to wind up with waste as a result. Now, waste winds up taking up space. So if you take a look, we've got a ton of garbage on the ground here, and this is slowing down my workers, and it needs to be cleaned up, and I really want to deal with all of this. But we're currently full in terms of, we're currently full as far as storage is concerned. So I need to build another smokestack. We need to kind of get a little more efficiency in terms of moving garbage. And that's going to happen by building more workers. And then I can build workers in environments where, normally they would be So like workers aren't affected by pollution. They're not affected by pretty much anything but being shot out of the sky as a ship. And so it just occurred to me I should come up with one of the ships and call it Jacob's Adder. But yeah, so like basically, pollution is something that will, in addition to lowering your enterprise value, it's something that will cause your your citizens to become sick, and they can die. And when your citizens die, you need to get replacements, or you just simply lose the money that they would have otherwise been generating for you. So in this case, being able to absorb pollution for the most part is a good thing in this game, but there is a catch. So this is the pollution overlay. Right now we're not generating a whole lot. I would have to assume that there's at least a little that's being generated here. So we've got 1552 in terms of pollution, and then we can compare that to, say, this empty plot, 0.03. And then you can see the closer it gets to orange and red, the more, the more dangerous it is. So far we don't really have to worry that much about we don't have to worry that much about the effects of pollution. But of course, the more production that we have, the more trucks we're running through. There's a lot of different things that can harm our citizens. The other thing that's difficult with pollution is that the way power generation on Titan works is that the fuel that you need for your power generators is called Zethane, and that actually comes from the air. So these, they come out of crevices and sinkholes, but basically you just extract that from the air, and you use it to power your different activities. So in this particular case, one of the problems that we're going to run into is if my pollution absorption is close enough to the devices that I'm using to extract fuel, then there's basically going to be less fuel in the area for me to be able to extract. So you can get a bit of an example about what's going on here, right? You can see this fuel turbine and the area of effect that it has. Really, most of the fuel that it's getting is coming from sort of these four tiles. It's also touching on these areas. I can't get stats on them right now, but you can kind of see, like, if it's not empty, it's closed. Yeah, so this is 3387 compared to this, which is 6560. So certainly much more rich in terms of Zethane. So, again, there's probably something I'm getting out of these regions, but I'm definitely not. I'm not powering most of my enterprise from it. So if we take a look here, this moves out too. So let's say we'd be building our fuel turbines here, move it out too. It's very likely that the pollution absorption is going to touch over these tiles. And what it's going to mean is that basically this turbine isn't as efficient as it otherwise would have been. Still might be worth doing, but it's just an example. It is also worth mentioning that the Zethane is a negative feature for residences. So generally, you would want like the livability will go down. I think we can actually get So you can see here that the amount of Zethane in the area actually produces -16. Also, it's reasonably close to the council hall, so that also causes a negative as far as the overall desirability of this location. So those are a couple things I'm thinking of. It's more academic at the moment here. So I've got, this would cost me 5 red artifact or just 5 artifacts. So in this particular case here, I want to be converting some citizens into employees. And there's plenty of inert ruins for me to kind of be working with right now. So I'm reluctant to be messing around with this anyway. But it's an example in terms of some development I'd like to go to. Definitely not. I mean, the council is definitely the council is not necessarily your friend, right? So it's a little bit like, I don't know, like, if there's like a police station and like it had cameras pointing out outside, would you want to live beside that? I think most people probably wouldn't. That's probably one. That, or I've just outed myself as some like nefarious criminal or something like that. But yeah, that's kind of where that's going. Anyways, I wanted to talk a little bit about the expansion plans. So the funny thing is that right now I don't need the resources from the isotope node or the mineral node, but eventually what's going to happen is I'm going to want to expand out to a point where there's sort of a mineral factory and an isotope factory that... Now, all we know how you feel about work. Well, I mean, that's not even in the top 10 horrible things I've said inside of this game about people, Algorithms. But yeah, one of the things that I'm eventually going to want to do is have some dedicated factories to refining the isotopes and minerals, and it's going to look a little bit like this workshop. But what's going to happen is there's going to be basically 2 sort of rows of these to go from like 1 to 2, and then I stick another 1 to 2 at the end here. So I think it winds up being something like 12 workers that are used in this. So like 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope, that can't be it. So I guess it would be 8 workers. 8 workers used for these, and then of course you have 2 of them, one for minerals, one for isotopes. So essentially what I would want would be 16 workers just to keep this thing running at full capacity. And of course I've got a cap of 22 right now, so I clearly cannot afford to have an overwhelming majority of my workforce just focused on refining minerals and isotopes. That's going to be something that I want to build up to. But what I can do is start building those factories as long as I'm close enough in my existing region. So that's one thing that I'm going to want to work towards. I can't recall. All right, so I only have the 1 ship right now. So yeah, we'll turn on the shipyard and get that next one built. And then yeah, I will eventually start building out the residential and office areas. But I think maybe for starters, I should start digging up the mineral patches, get that done reasonably quickly so that I can actually start taking advantage of it. What do you mean you wouldn't want to live beside the safety and security provided by the proximity to our cherished and honorable police force? Yeah, and the sincerity of that comment is about as true as what the citizens of Titan would say. Anyways, we're going to just make some money right now. I'm going to need to buy up some new buildings, so mine is actually not the highest priority for me right now. It might be... I'm having a tough time saying whether it should be a science lab, a conversion center, or the office and residence combo. I think a mine so that I can mine the mineral patches faster. But I think there's some room for flexibility, for sure. Okay, am I building this ship still? No. Okay. Ah, yes, actually it did just occur to me, so I may want to wait and build like a big beastly one. So that's going to cost 7,000 credits. Yeah, I think we'll actually wait it out. Immortal Velity, how you doing? It's good to see a lot of you. It's actually maybe it's also good because I was feeling sorry for myself a few minutes ago, so it's actually really it's nice. Everybody got to skip over that. I guess except for the VOD people. Sorry about that. And you all get like the good stuff on the stream. I'll try to put a disclaimer on the start of the video or something like that. Decree, good to see you. Likewise, you got to miss me feeling sorry for myself. So you came just at the right time. I also have I have some ideas for you go back to the VOD so you can rewatch parts you don't understand. That happens often. What, me feeling sorry for myself? I don't think it was that bad. Oh, I'm not writing a book. I just like write essays or like blog articles or something like that. Oh, not understanding things. Okay, so let me do my best. So like right now we're just trying to grow and like get bigger. We've got a lot of workers and not a lot of citizens right now. So basically let me try and explain these left to right. So in order to do stuff on Titan, you generally need to get those things from the council, who are your sponsors. So if I want to claim land on Titan, I need to do something for the council in order to get that. And in the world of Titan, influence over the sort of the government or the governing body, let's say, of Titan is it is actually a currency. Like influence is something that you would have in like a it's something that you would have in like a it's something you'd have in an account. And so you sort of autonomously generate influence. The base rate is 5.2 per minute. However, there are things that you can do to improve that rate. So for instance, the Ruin Monument, if I were to claim it, I would actually be gaining another 5 influence per minute, and it would also improve the influence cap. So overall a good thing. It would cost me 64 energy and an employee, so I could afford that, but I would also need to make sure that I'm upgrading my my energy capacity. But overall, like, that's something that will help me grow faster. But in any case, influence is basically how I can do things like claim this tile, right? So I just claimed it, that's mine, I can do with it what I want. So in this case, there are 3 things that I can do with a ruin. And in this case, that's either extract it for its resources, which in this case are minerals and isotopes. I could destroy it for artifacts. In this case, it has no artifacts, so I essentially get nothing from it. Or I could discover, and that would be for inert ruins, which have sort of special properties. So what's convenient here is that exploiting this for the resources, minerals and isotopes, it makes me skip over, but I'll at least be able to sort of talk about the resources inside of the game. So we'll salvage this for the resources, and I'm using that to get minerals and isotopes. So in very broad terms, I can say that minerals are generally used for building new buildings. So if you want to build, if you want to build an office building, you are going to need quite a few construction units worth of minerals, and you'll need sort of a token amount of isotopes. However, if you want to upgrade a building, so for instance, I may want to upgrade this fuel turbine from tier 1 to tier 2, this is going to require only isotopes. And in this case, it's, again, you're not so much building something as you're improving an existing technology. So in this particular case, basically you can kind of work out the division of the two for yourself. But it's fair to say that, as with most games that have sort of production mechanics and all of that, more is generally better, right? Like, that's just kind of true for most of these kinds of games, and you are sort of playing you're playing a business in a cyberpunkish world. So naturally you're going to behave that way. One of the other resources that we have are credits. So this is currency as opposed to influence. So these are basically going to be resources with which I can, influence. Currency, minerals, and isotopes are going to be resources with which I can perform certain actions on Titan. I want to repair my ship, the Loquacious Adder. I built the Loquacious Adder using minerals, but I'm repairing it with credits. Credits can also be used to unlock new buildings. So in this case, I need 1,000 credits in order to unlock a new building. And then I can also use credits, minerals, and isotopes in trade with the council. So I could give up influence to request minerals, isotopes, or credits from the council, or I could donate items to the council for influence. And it's 5 influence for minerals, isotopes, or credits, but I get 10 influence if I give up an artifact. So I didn't really talk about artifacts. That is actually a fairly important resource itself. So you can get those by the extraction. Artifacts are something obviously very desirable to the council. My theory is that the council have set up the system on Titan specifically so that they can get more artifacts. And then what you can use them for yourself, in addition to activating the inert ruins, which will have certain abilities that are helpful for you, is you can use them to build new employees. And employees are the ones, they're these little green fellas, not really green people, but their lights make them look like little green people, walking around doing all the activities. So essentially having more employees is going to allow you to just get more things done at once. You know, you can have one employee doing a bunch of things in order and just wait a very long time, or you can have multiple people doing the work in parallel to to try and get the job done faster. There's also some priorities that you can assign them inside of this list here, but I believe there is a limit. I think one of the things that happens is they tend to work with the first thing that popped up. So, you know, if you needed a certain resource, if something like if the first unit of waste was in a good place to be, and the second unit of waste was in an inconvenient spot, the first one's still going to be cleaned up first. Actually, there's one slightly different thing I'm going to do. Waste is kind of getting in the way, so I'm going to shift the cleanup. I'm going to move the cleanup above move resources, so the surplus of workers should be working on waste management. All right. Citizens. So citizens are the people that you have in your city corporation. You give them habitats, you give them places to live, and the only thing that a citizen can really do right now is just work. Leisure will be added in, at least in the form of parks, but essentially their purpose is to make you money during working hours, which are 8 to 4, and then they're essentially a liability at every other point. So they'll generate you a certain amount of credits per day. You can see a summary of that by mousing over credits. And what you'll notice is that I need to pay employees. So those are deducted at the end of the work shift. So with the population that I have right now, I generate 1,398. With the total number of workers I have a cost of 1,020. So I actually don't make that much per day. I can make a little bit more by bringing in more workers, but that of course is going to require me to either upgrade. Oh, hello. Why are you unpowered? Oh, wow, I really blew this. That's been that way for a while. But yeah, so in this case here, in order to maintain my workforce as well as gain me things like new buildings, I need to make sure I have a certain number of citizens in the city corporation as well. Now, one of the sorry, how do I put this? Like, sorry, just taking a look at the migrant ships. So, I can add 4 workers, but in the end, that's not really going to help me get the buildings that I want, right? So this is where I start making some decisions in terms of where I want my expansion to be. So for instance, one thing that I could do is say, well, let's upgrade this this factory, right? Let's add another floor. And you can say, well, I could do that, but why don't I just build a second factory? And in that case, you know, I don't need to worry about the like I've got extra land, I've got extra space. So why don't I just build a factory to do the same thing? And then, you take a look at the cost, and the answer, probably the right answer is, oh yeah, no, that makes a lot more sense. So we'll do that. But again, like these are kind of where I'm going to be. Eventually, this is going to be sort of where I wind up making certain decisions, right? So where the game can be a little hard to understand is basically to try and see what problems I'm dealing with. So in this particular case here, the problem I'm trying to deal with is I'm going to want to expand, and my best expansion will be coming from building things like residences, offices, etc. But because I'm not generating a lot of money right now, it's going to be very slow going, and I don't want to grow slowly. I want to grow quickly. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually build another work from home setup. Now, I don't normally do this, but it's just sort of recognizing the fact that it's going to be taking me a while to get all this stuff built. So let's get our factory, even though it's going to be a temporary one. So we'll put one here. Another thing that I can start doing is activating the inert ruins. But I think I'm going to focus on clearing out some mineral patches first. I don't even necessarily have to have people working them for start, but I guess maybe I can have one. Actually, if it says 6 people are idle, let's assign where we can. The other thing I want to do is expand the smokestack, and I may need to redesign the transport hub. So we'll start with a smokestack. So the smokestack is something that's going to store and destroy waste, which again we have quite a bit of. So let's start with, yeah, that's good. And then I need to power this. I made a mistake in terms of the placement of this energy pylon because I need to be able to get the transport hub on the roads. Oh, right, but we're going to wait for that artifact patch to get cleared out. Yeah, so the rebels, we have a codex entry for the rebel we're up against, so... At least I thought we did. Oh, Zoran Gorak. Faction Rebels, position leader of the Breakers, origin unknown but previously worked as an asteroid miner. Zoran has an endless well of passion and a guilty conscience. He'll tell you all about the evils of the Council and what they did to his family, but he'll artfully avoid mentioning any of the ways he was complicit in the violence they enacted. He knows exactly what parts of the story to tell to convince his followers into swift and violent action. He would call himself persuasive and sympathetic. Not everyone who has crossed his path would agree. So that's not the only character who we can be up against. There's also Bahar Koroba, faction of the rebels, leader of the Cobra rebels, originally from Titan. Brought up by the founders of the small but successful Koroba Solutions, Bahar witnessed how Titan's corporations treated its employees. When they spoke out about it, their parents tried to have them converted. That was enough to push them towards the rebel cause. They were educated to take over the family business, and now they use that knowledge against the corporations of Titan and the Council itself. So, in this case here, the process of conversion, it's talked about a couple of times for the devices. So we've got conversion capsule. Converting citizens into low-wage, always obedient employees is an unpleasant business. So thank goodness for conversion capsules, which do the dirty work for you. And you can get your new employees to empty the waste produced in the process. And then you also have a building, which would be the conversion center. The conversion capsules are handy, but they are limited in how many employees you can convert at any one time. With the conversion center, you can convert much more efficiently. So essentially, actually, you can also hear what some of the characters think about the process of conversion. Generally, they don't like it. Let's see if we can maybe find some dialogue to talk about this stuff.
By the way, Founder, there's a limit to the number of employees you can have at any given time. But don't worry, we can increase that number if you start to find it limiting. Each conversion capsule allows for even more employee brains. If you want to increase your maximum controllable number of employees, simply build more conversion capsules.
So we're not going to build the conversion capsules, but we will try the conversion centers at some point. All right, let's get an upgrade in. So one thing you can do with the buildings is double them up. Gives you a bit more space, so that's what I want to do with this factory here. And again, we're doing that with the factory so that I can copy this. I can copy this layout. In fact, I don't really have enough tier 2s. Oh. So likewise, combining here. All right. So, sorry, I was just trying to think of the things I was wanting to talk about in terms of trying to make sense of the game. I'll maybe talk a little bit about the refining operations when I build my next one, but basically the idea here is that you don't just have one type of resource that you can bring in. So I spent influence to redirect a ship to give me more citizens. You can actually see the ship arrive here, and there'll be some people who pop out of the spaceport in a moment. Hey, there you are. 64 by 64? No, sorry, they changed that recently. Let me take a look. Da, da, da. 1,000 tiles bigger. 72 by 72. Which I realize, I think most people don't see that as very large. That's actually a lot. Admittedly, you can't build something on every tile, but there's a lot that you can do with 72 tiles, to say the least. Sorry, I'm trying to get a bite of dinner in between sections. Okay, so this smokestack's got more storage capacity. It's also hopefully a bit faster at burning waste. I'm not 100% sure if doubling up actually changes that. We could upgrade it further, but I think we have other things we can do with our isotopes. So what my main focus right now is going to be on is building some more space for my workers. So I'll start with the energy grid. I never remember how I actually build this. Well, first of all, I put this in the wrong spot. There we go. So next up, we put a place for people. Good lord. Put a place for people to live. And then we put power. So Habitat Pod will increase the number of citizens that you can house. A monetization will take 1 citizen per pod, and it'll generate 96 credits a day. So the idea here is that I'm keeping the shortest distance between the living area and the work area. And then essentially what I'm kind of trying to, and then I need to power all of this. So you need an energy bridge to get power from the outside. Then you use a relay to send that power out to all of the other areas. And if you recall from the previous work from home setup that I put up, basically the relays in the middle here also power a ring of these others. Oh, just lasagna. Store-bought, nothing too special. Streamer pods, yes. One thing I'm going to do here, I've been refining a lot of tier 2 minerals to tier 3. I'm actually going to turn off the mineral. Actually, you know what? I could use more, isotopes. Yeah, I think I'll risk it with the isotopes, but for minerals, I think we're gonna cool it for a bit. We're also going to need some inputs for isotopes, so I'm going to do the same thing with the isotope patch here. We'll claim and then set someone to work. Also, so I notice it doesn't say idle anymore, so I'm just going to set it back to there being just one worker working on extracting the resources until we have a little more slack in our workforce. So, should specify it's a vegetable lasagna. I am not vegetarian, but I am trying to at least, like, I don't know, like I'm trying to experiment, I guess. Like, it's fun if I can try something a little more plant-based. For each, or for like one dinner. I actually tried an Impossible Burger. I think it was like Burger King that had one. It's like an Impossible Whopper. I was actually quite surprised at how well they worked with it. Like, from what I understand, they are very costly. But I actually think it's a really interesting idea. It's one of the examples that was brought up in the venture capital book that I was reading. When I say venture capital book, it's not about how to be a venture capitalist. It's more about the role venture capitalists had in terms of being an engine of economic progress. It's by Sebastian Mallaby, published through the Council on Foreign Relations. It's quite a good book called The Power Law. And one of their first examples is Impossible Foods. So. Yeah, I didn't mind it. I mean, like, to be honest, like, I don't have very high standards. And here's the thing, like, if you're eating Burger King, you're probably not, like, you're not looking for, like, brand new culinary horizons, right? So as far as I'm concerned, it did the job. Like I said, I was impressed because I didn't really know what to expect. But with that in mind, I'm also, like, personally, I couldn't see myself buying one in the store, but that's also because I don't buy hamburger patties in the store. I'll get, like, some ground turkey for, doing some kind of, like, meat sauce or something like that. But oh, really? Yeah, I would totally order. I'd totally order it again. Like, if I were to, I suspect probably what I would do is if I were to like go to, like, I don't go to Burger King very often. I actually didn't know it was, like, you kind of know that it's here because it's a fast food chain and they're, like, all over the place. But like, I would completely, if I had to get a Whopper, I would happily go for the Impossible Whopper if it was the same price. Now, I mean, again, like, that's a me thing. I'm not necessarily saying that should be generalized for everyone, but the idea for the company, I think, is really interesting. And it's sorry to spend so much time talking about that. I'm actually not that invested in the company compared to the amount that I'm talking about. But what I think is interesting about it is, and again, this is where the power law starts, is that you have this idea, you have someone who's essentially looking at the question of sort of animal husbandry and its environmental effects, and sort of the idea of, well, you know, how much do we expect the human population to grow? How much are they going to be, you know, eating meat, so on and so forth. It's not that vegetarianism is unknown. I think a lot of people are aware, both from a health benefits point of view as well as maybe even an environmental point of view. But we also like to enjoy things, right? You know, if you're eating, generally you like to have good food. You want to be enjoying the things that you're eating. And some people are going to assign some more value to, you know, to particular actions or activities than others. So what I thought was kind of neat was that, so first of all, the way that they see this idea is like, so first of all, they look at this and they say, it's like, okay, so what, we're just going to sort of sit here and like wait for the disaster to happen? That doesn't seem like a very good idea. So then they have something of the crazy idea to say, it's like, what if we could make a plant-based product that quote unquote regular people could enjoy. And, you know, to do that, you need a certain amount of, you know, of capital. You need to figure out what to, you need to do the research, and you also need to make a product that's appealing. But it just so happens that because that scientist was in the Silicon Valley area, they had this network of financing. People who basically do these like 1 in a million shots and specifically look for those kinds of things. And ultimately, this new product was created. And I mean, so far as I can tell, both the intention of the product and the use of it is not really to appeal to the, you know, the super health conscious or the, you know, the sort of person who's already eating vegetarian. I suspect they already have their solutions. What I suspect is happening is, you know, somebody who's getting some hamburger patties will maybe also take one, you know, thing of Impossible and shuffle that in. But again, the overall effect is largely aligned with what the intention of the company was. And it, you know, again, its existence is largely just due to the fact that there is this system in place to blow it on a very large number of those kinds of enterprises, but to wind up, you know, tremendously enriched by the few that pull it off. So, and, you know, I'll confess, right? Like, I am absolutely an example of that bet largely being correct. You know, I liked it enough that if I'm given the option and the cost isn't all that different, I'll do it. And I'm largely not necessarily doing it for an environmental reason. I mean, I'm aware of it, and that is a mild appeal of the product for sure. But in this case, like, rather than, you know, I suppose there's just something very appealing about, rather than just sort of giving someone a lecture about what the cost of what they're doing is to the world, which I'm sort of aware of, but obviously I'm still behaving in this, you know, my dietary habits are ones that are maybe not that good for me and not necessarily that good for the planet. But essentially, through the creation of this product, this alternative that doesn't require me to change a whole lot, it's kind of created this this opportunity for me to mildly to not at all inconvenience myself. Also, I think I still got this right. But yeah, sorry, this wound up being an unintended sort of advertisement for Impossible Foods, which was not quite where I was going with it. But I just in general think that it's like, so one of the reasons I actually feel okay talking about this sort of stuff specifically during Industries of Titan is that I don't know if this is me projecting my own feelings or myself into Industries of Titan, but one of the things I like about this game is I feel that it is not particularly, it doesn't feel as judgmental as it could be. Hey Danlock, how you doing? Still waiting for a plant-based chicken shawarma. Don't they do a chicken-based? I think they're doing like a poultry product. But yeah, so like I don't want to say the name of the game. Like the thing is that like I think there is sometimes some value in drawing contrasts, and if you're doing a contrast of a game that's doing something right, sometimes you will want to contrast that to a game that's doing it poorly. Incidentally, I forgot that I'm not paying influence. The bonus that I took was actually to get influence every time I bring people in. So there's even more of an incentive for me to drag in more colonists. Speaking of, I'm going to build a mine. Or I'll try to, at least. Oop, I messed up. So this mine requires 200 construction units from minerals. So tier 3 minerals are worth 25 construction units. And then it requires 4 isotope construction units. So in this case, I'm going to go for tier 3. Now that's going to use 9 construction units of isotopes, but the idea here is that it's using 1 tier 3 as opposed to 2 tier 2s. So in the end, the destiny of all of these tier 1 isotopes are going to be to become tier 3s if I kind of let the thing run the way that it normally does. And so in this case, I don't mind wasting, quote unquote, a little bit. So generally the way that I play this game is to maximize or minimize the number of individual units used. Now that does sometimes lead me to be a bit inefficient in the game, but in this case I think it's justified. So I'm building this mine so that I can be a bit faster in extracting the minerals. I do, however, have 40 influence, so we're going to claim this Isotopes patch. Once this worker's done working on it, there's 3 more isotopes to mine. We'll just move them to work on this plant here. But anyways, I was going to introduce an example which I sort of thought wasn't as good, and it is actually a cyberpunk game, and it's one that I think tries to tackle similar themes to Titan, but in a different kind of format. And the thing that game did, so you are playing someone who's running, or you're basically running a megacorp. And there are, there's the shadowy cabal who's telling you what to do. It's talking about RuneScape. Chances are, I think most of you are not going to know what this game is. Some of you might figure it out. But again, the purpose here is just to be, like, here's the thing. If you like that game, and I'm going to spend some time talking about why I thought this was kind of heavy-handed and sort of defeated the game. And I'll actually admit, I will also confess that I think this was the developer talking about the game. I'm not 100% sure how much of this wound up inside of it. But essentially, what you wound up doing, like, there was at least this idea, and I think at least some of this wound up in the final game, where you would get sort of messages from people who are affected by the big nefarious things that you're doing as the company. And, it's like, oh, please don't do this thing, Mr., big evil corporation. I need that money to live, or I need this policy to make sure I'm protected or whatever. And just like, it felt, I think the way they justified it was like, the player needs to be aware of the consequences of their actions. But to me, it wound up just coming off as this very heavy-handed moralizing, about the, how terrible it is that companies can get a profit, and so on and so forth. And like the thing is, right, like, yeah, obviously it's cyberpunk, and like the corporations are wealthy enough that they don't need people like me to defend them, right? So like this is not going to be some sort of apology for unchecked capitalism. Oh yeah, no, don't get me wrong. Like I actually think it's very helpful to like, so in the case of like Mass Effect, I think there's a big advantage to showing the consequences for individual decisions you make. But then you're also playing, like, the focus so much is on the, like, you telling the story of Commander Shepard. I think it's a little bit different from the simulator, right? So like I don't think it's wrong that you necessarily see consequence in games, but the problem with the way that it was implemented in this particular game was that it definitely felt like the game was sort of being put on hold to give me the message. And there was a certain point where I was like, well, I'm like rigging elections for my preferred candidate. Like, I'm not under any illusions that I'm doing like a good thing here, right? Like I'm fully aware that I'm a bad person in this game. So like, I think maybe what they'd said is, well, I want to avoid it being a power fantasy. So, I want you to get these emails about how people are being affected by what you do. Again, it's been a while, so I may be unfair to the person. But no, it's not Tropico. It's been a while since I've played a Tropico game, but I remember quite liking it, actually. I think it was Starbright Knight who got me playing. It wasn't the most recent Tropico game. But yeah, anyways. The point here was not to rag on this other game, but it's more the fact that, like, again, so I've talked a lot in the Industries of Titan playthroughs about what a jerk I'm being. So like, investing in a fleet of trucks that I'm absolutely not using instead of paying my workers because one raises the value of my city corporation, and essentially paying my workers is a loss to me. I'm like, it's really clear that I am aware of the consequences. And I've talked a lot about the idea of conversion and this really just horrible feeling that Titan is this machine that has attracted sort of the brightest and best, the most ambitious, the most capable. And the consequence for failure is to be converted, to have all of that spark just completely demolished and turned into something not fun, as Alexa puts it. It's actually sort of where devs can make statements, but weaving them more seamlessly into the game is probably more seamlessly into the game. Yeah, I mean, that's obviously it's the ideal. And again, like, just to be clear, I don't think it's a bad thing that the developer put that in their game. It's their game, right? They are allowed to put whatever they want in, however heavy-handed I think it is. And if it doesn't work for me, I can go find another game that does work better for me. I was originally going to demolish these ruins. It's actually better for me to claim this one and just activate the relay, because it also stores fuel and energy. But yeah, what I like about Industries of Titan, in my opinion at least, is that I don't really feel like there's the moment where it just comes out and says, isn't it so terrible what you or the council are doing, right? I really like Anaya Oak, but this is definitely the point where, like, she's really clearly pushing for her promotion and her advancement. Vern, I used to really like. although I like not just like as a person, but I'm like, yeah, Vern's probably one of the good people on Titan. And then you kind of start hearing a bit about his experiments, and I'm like, okay, let's reserve that a little bit. I don't think anybody likes Lio, for good reason. But like, what's coming through is you get to see a bunch of different personalities. All of these people have their own views. Zoran is not, like, the rebels are not inherently the good people who are living good and easier lives, right? Zoran seems to be a pretty violent and questionable individual. Actually, the person that we're competing against, I cannot recall exactly his name. Quill Bass. Having come to Titan with dreams of creating a better world, startup superstar Quill Bass abides by a philosophy of zero violence, or, as he says, negotiation before termination. Needless to say, young Quill is very much an outlier on Titan. There's a longer description which kind of talks about how he is kind of compromising his ideals and how he has a ticket in his desk, to escape Titan if it becomes too much. So what I kind of like about this, for me at least, what I get out of Titan is that you have all of these different characters. They have their reasons for acting the way that they do. You may or may not agree with their motives or their approach, but ultimately they're all just these sort of different examples of the types of people that Titan attracts and what they're willing to do to get ahead. The other thing that I think is interesting about Industries of Titan is that, like, the accomplishment of the council and this whole system is genuinely very impressive, right? Colonizing Titan's moon, building a whole new industry, and all of the wealth generation and all of the productive activity that comes as a result of it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it is unambiguously good. It's why I wanted to talk about the sort of the venture capital book, and the Impossible Burger and all that. Because of course, some of the other examples inside of the book would be early Facebook. I mean, even modern Facebook is kind of wretched, but the culture of early Facebook was utterly appalling. Are you trying to say there's politics in your video games? Just characters. Characters doing their best. Following their moral code or lack of moral code. So I built this mine so that we can extract the minerals faster. But in this case here, right? So I think what's great about Industries of Titan is that, you're playing a simulation and you're the owner of this city corporation. You're going to be doing the things that are most aligned with achieving those goals. But the game doesn't go out of its way to sort of say, aren't you ashamed of what you're doing? It doesn't sort of fall into that trap that other game I felt did. And I think that's particularly good because, again, it's clearly Cyberpunk has a long and excellent tradition of critiquing a lot of our systems and a lot of our priorities are there's a lot to go in there, right? Just like any good science fiction, it's going to be much more about the time that it's written than necessarily about the future. But what I particularly like is that it's done so in a way that it always seems to line up with a gameplay. So I do terrible things like conversion. I will stiff my workers for seemingly no reason, and that's because it's a very effective way to run the company. And it's sort of left for me to sort of close the gap. but I'm not completely, like, I'm not left completely on my own, right? You have these characters, you have this setting, you can go through the codex, you can read about what life is like on Titan. And it's, again, there is never the, you know, eat your vegetables or you'll become just like this character moment. But you definitely are given some hints in terms of the consequences of a lot of your actions. And sorry, I said I was going to talk about why I brought up the venture capital stuff, and then I never did. One of the things that I kind of think is so interesting about the world of Industries of Titan is that when you think about the type of people that are attracted to Titan, you know, these are probably people who, given the opportunity, could be quite successful, you know, on Earth today, right? They certainly are quite fearless to go to an off-world startup. It's not an easy life. A lot is expected of them. It's definitely there's a lot of qualities that I think we would associate with good worker. They have a lot of qualities that we would associate with being good workers and potentially good entrepreneurs. Could capitalism be the problem? No, it's the workers who are wrong. But what I find so interesting about Titan in particular is that all of these people who I think so the characters I find the most interesting are the converted, because under another set of circumstances, these are people who would probably be very, very effective in, you know, a lot of other jobs. But because they weren't the best of the best, right? I think the example that I gave in a previous stream was, you know, you're a painter, but unfortunately for you, you were born in the Renaissance. And so your competition is going to be, you know, some of the greatest painters that have ever lived. So, you know, in this case here, there's a number of people who wind up converted in Industries of Titan who, you know, again, under other circumstances would be very successful. And again, this brings me back to that venture capital book. It's a little hard to point to something like Theranos and say, see, this is what venture capital produces. Because as it happens, a lot of VCs avoided Theranos, and it was actually people trying to get in that game that wound up taken in. So that is an interesting lesson, but it's maybe not the lesson that I think people want to take away from it. But again, you could take Facebook, you could take even something like Uber. Like, to a certain extent, I think Uber has produced something that has created, you know, some value for me. It's been less expensive to get around. Like, being able, you know, in Vancouver, when I visited, my friends lived very far away from a lot of the places I was hanging out. And so, you know, being able to have an inexpensive rideshare to get around really helped. Now, obviously, taxi drivers are not going to be happy about it. But the thing is that that's not necessarily going to be a cost to society, right? The fact that a taxi union has been able to sort of keep the prices higher than what they otherwise would have been, if anything, being able to break that is actually something that will create more value for us. It is also fair to say that for a very long time, Uber was sort of subsidizing my costs of ride shares, hoping to sort of win that market. So to a certain extent, I really do think that there is as much as there are legitimate criticisms of these companies and this overall system, it is very fair to say it has genuinely been an engine of economic growth, right? Apple Computer, which I really do think gets a lot more credit for popularizing the personal computer. Because again, when they started, it was not assured that we were going to be using computers the way that we did, right? You needed a company to sort of make the product sexy and to let people understand that this was actually something really they could do very impressive things with. You know, it has produced a lot of companies that we directly benefit from, particularly gaming, right? Atari would be another example of this. But there is a cost, right? Whether that cost is something that we need to focus on at the VC level, or whether we need to make sure that we have a stronger regulatory environment for when these companies become stronger. You know, essentially, you know, if you've got better antitrust, when these companies are monopolies and behave like monopolies, you can start properly kind of cracking down on them. I forgot to put a roadway to this mine, so this is not a very efficient way of clearing it out. There's a lot of different ways that you can attack that problem. But what I find interesting, and again, it's a little bit like why I find Industries of Titan interesting, is that rather than just sort of wagging a finger, it presents you what I would say it presents you with problems, right? I don't think anybody can look at Titan and say that this is a good way of running things, but it's sort of left to you to decide exactly what your role in this is. And, you know, it allows you to have the conversation about what is good about this and what's bad, right? Like, I think it would be fair to say that we would want... I hope you're not saying Atari isn't sexy. No. I mean, obviously now it's not really a going, because our Atari's had a few iterations, but it's what I mean though, right, is like clearly so much of video gaming owes its existence to Atari, and a lot of Atari's ability to do what it did follows from venture capital. It's actually kind of funny. I think there is some VC money that's going into gaming now, but I feel like there's a lot less of it. And again, probably rightly so. Like, I'm not entirely sure that's a space. I mean, if you look at it, definitely like the winners wind up being big winners, and there is a very large drop off on products that don't make it. But I don't think that's why, venture capitalists put the kind of investments that they do. Like, I guess you'd have to say, like, what do they think they're doing in terms of identifying the potential winners or being able to coach up the potential winners that others aren't? Because it's not like there aren't people who have money who are trying to make video games. Anyway, sorry, I'm kind of rambling on this, but yeah, I could be wrong. Like, it could, like, here's the thing, like, Brace Yourself could turn around and say, no, this is totally, like, we could not be clearer that we think this is horrible. And, like, do we need to put an even bigger signpost down for you? Like, how much more of a message do you need, for crying out loud? But I guess my appeal would be the way I first reacted to that animation. I was actually under the impression, because the woman speaking on the stage has blue hair and the person from the start has blue hair, that it was actually a success story on Titan. But it wasn't. It's actually someone else, and potentially someone who had their idea stolen. I think there's a potential implication there, which obviously brings a certain amount of irony to the lines about the bold, the strong, friends of the council. Or, well, when they say friends of the council, that kind of puts the twist on all the qualities you need to succeed on Titan. There was, at least for a while, a reading that told me that this is actually the story of success on Titan. Whether it was a dream of success or whether it was the reality of success, that was sort of how I'd originally seen it. And I guess for me, I tend to find those kinds of stories or that kind of material, I just tend to find that stuff more compelling. I tend to find it, the critique part of the game is a little bit more effective when I'm sort of allowed to make the judgment myself. I guess because we were talking about vegetarianism, right? Think about the way you would react if somebody, it's, we just had 4th of July for Canada First birthday Friday. Plenty of times to fire up a grill and cook some hamburgers or hot dogs or whatever you want. Now, if somebody turns around and says, do you know how many carbon emissions there are through animal husbandry? And red meat's bad for you. You're dragging down the healthcare system, and and it's just this litany of all of the bad things that you're doing, telling you to change. They are probably factually correct, and you are absolutely not going to be convinced by that. If anything, you are probably going to want to keep doing what you're doing out of spite. Which is maybe not the best reaction, but we're people, right? We're probably going to be prone to those kinds of reactions, particularly when we deal with exceptionally zealous individuals, telling us what our business is. So, for me to be able to come to that realization or get to that place myself, and to be able to I'm going to build a storage facility just so that we can have some overflow for my extra resources. That to me, I tend to feel is a little bit easy. Like I tend to find that's usually a better way to get me to buy in on the point that they're trying to make, basically. And I think the writing in Industries of Titan sort of allows you to think a little bit for yourself about the world. Because the thing is that, like, obviously, you can play this game and say, no, this is exactly like that game that you were talking about, right? Like, this is obviously evil, this is capitalism gone amok, and this is why we need change. And that's totally fair too, right? There's no one right way to play Titan. There's no one right way to react to Titan. But for me, I just sort of like the fact that there's, like, the villains are not mustache twisting villains. That you are actually given some space to sort of have your favorites and decide whether there are any redeeming characters among the Landfallers, for instance. Staff overflow. All right, I'm going to go back to Cadence's workshop. Now remember, we turned this off because we needed tier 2 minerals. We've actually switched over. I'm building a lot of roads, so I need tier 3s of things. So I'm going to turn it all back on. And I'll be able to build 2 more roads, but it's not going to get me where I need to go to the mine quite yet. So yeah, I'll build the storage facility for the overflow. And then I think I'll start with a conversion center, actually. We'll probably make, we'll make another 2,000 pretty soon anyway, so I'm not that worried, but... Yeah, so there's a bit of pollution that's going to waft over here. I wouldn't be surprised if some of our citizens start getting sick. How you doing, Vanguard Master? I'm going to activate this inert ruin first so that I can absorb some of the pollution from the mine. Good, just working as usual, and whoever heard of anyone dying from pollution? They'll be fine, the whiny babies. We just need to convert them. Alright, so I've got my roadway to the mine to sort of get that all sorted. I am going to have to build a, I'm going to build that storage facility for the, again, for mineral, basically for overflow of everything, but basically, you know, waste, minerals, isotopes, it's all going to go in that central area. What I will do then, once I clear that out, I'm actually, well, I might be reluctant to demolish the storage container, but the waste receptacles are definitely going, and I might find some other storage to work with. Okay, so I'm gonna go to tier 2 isotopes for the same reason. If I leave it at the 1, then I'm good to go. I am taking a slightly different approach to the game this time around in that I'm spreading out my buildings quite a bit more. I've got a lot of real estate here, so I'm trying to just grow faster by using up as much as I can. I think I'll start with the pollution, and then my next 20 I'm going to grab this minerals patch. So one thing I might do actually is just build a whole series of sort of work from home factories here as a you know, as a temporary measure before I can set up something a little more permanent. If you can give me a second, I'm not going to pause the game, but I am just going to step away from the keyboard for a second. I'm sorry for all the interruptions, but I just need a second. Oh, Purple's art. Sorry, I just needed to switch something on charge. I saw your YouTube comment. That wasn't, yeah, what I was talking about before. So I feel a little weird. So I think possibly you and Olaf might have been kind enough to give me some comments to like flush out the nonsense in, you know, from the other video. So if you are, thank you. And if you would like replies, let me know. But I'm thinking perhaps your intention was to help palate cleanse the nonsense I'm putting up with. Yeah, this is one of the challenges when I have something on my mind and it winds up being, you know, kind of inconveniently timed. I don't think it's wrong to correct stuff online. I mean, like, I was probably wrong on the tricuspid game. For some reason, I thought that there was a reference to valves in the start. Sorry, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, this is something related to Cultist Simulator. For some reason, at the time of recording, I was quite sure there was a document that referred to valves in the stag door. and then like between videos is like, actually, I don't necessarily think that's right. And then I'm like, well, the video's kind of done, so whatever, right? It's not necessarily wrong to correct that stuff. Like, you don't get better if you don't hear correction. It's also unfortunately the fact of the matter that you can know something's wrong, and you wind up just hearing about it for years following because people don't look at the other comments, or if they do look at the other comments, they want to jump in and do it too. There are actually YouTubers that wind up exploiting this for attention. There will be deliberate mistakes at the beginning of the video or in the title, let's say, and that's designed to generate the kinds of comments that people will like, the comments people leave to correct them. And of course, YouTube measures that as engagement. So in that case, their videos wind up doing better purely because they've sort of baited a number of people into doing the well actually thing. But yeah, I mean, just because I'm talking about something, like the thing is that you are in the end are going to be responsible for your actions. You are not going to be responsible for what other people have done. So just because I've got a video that's making me feel kind of crummy, does not mean that you should regret engaging with the video, right? So I'm sorry that I made you feel like you should regret that. I mostly just wanted to kind of come clean about the fact. It's like, yeah, I was almost certainly wrong on that. Because I don't want to like leave the comment unsaid, but I figured I owe you, I owe you an explanation, let's say. Oh my goodness, we've got Yuya Hana and we've got Momoko Hana. So how are you both doing? I hope you both are well as well. I think you've seen Industries of Titan before. We're playing and actually, Purple Zard, if you could just let me know if you heard that, because if not, I'll give you a reply on YouTube. But I wanted to make sure that you don't feel hard done by or singled out. Now I regret regretting it, so I hope you're happy. Fair enough. You can't win. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, Industries of Titan is a very beautiful cyberpunk city builder. It's a little bit of a strategy game. It's a little bit of a simulation, and it's got a really good soundtrack. So it's one of these games. I know Kite was really kind in talking about how I talk about history, and it's a little hard to talk about history in a game which takes place in the future. But if you want a picture of Saturn, maybe it's a little too dark to see Saturn. I'm thinking I might need to wait till it's a little bit better, slightly better conditions. Can we? Nope, nope. There it is. You know, it's funny that you mention the lights in particular, because I believe some of the light effects were actually a result of the 20% time that Brace Yourself Games does. So from my understanding, the Fridays for workers are time for them to sort of do a project that they think is worth, that they sort of think is worth following up. And so some of the, light effects, particularly during the storms and that, I think actually were the result of people taking some time to explore that tech and learning something that could be applied to the game. So an example of not just something that I think is a nice thing to do and a cool idea, but something that actually wound up making the game look a bit better. I'm hoping I got that right. Like, obviously I don't want to misattribute where things came from, but yes, we're on Saturn's moon, Titan, and I really like the photo mode in this game. Lots of chances to sort of show off the city that you've built. But yes, I've been doing a mixed job in terms of explaining what's going on. So if anybody is curious about what's happening, and it's not clear from how I've been playing, or if there's follow-up questions, please let me know, even if I have to repeat myself. Like I'm fine doing that. I think it'd be better if I showed off the game. Oh, you know what? I don't even know if I said this at the start. If I didn't, I apologize. But I have been given a copy of this game from Brace Yourself Games for promotional purposes. So I like Brace Yourself a lot. They made Crypto the Necrodancer and Cadence of Hyrule and Phantom Brigade, and there's a lot of very cool people who work there, and very nice people who work there. But it's also good to disclose when you've been given a key for promoting something. So I like this game a lot, but please keep in mind that I was given a copy to promote it. So if that affects your decision about the game, you've been warned. Belatedly, I apologize, but now we've got it. Okay, so we were talking about how we were going to build. So I think I've decided I am going to build some more work from home slots, just because, again, that'll build up my credits even more. It'll allow me to build more ships. I certainly have the power for it. And it'll also give me a chance to sort of build up my minerals and such. So I might even build a building dedicated to creating, to converting workers. But I can deal with that later. Oh, the other thing I wanted to do, now that I've got a mine, so the best place for the mine to be, in my opinion, would be if I can get it here. Yeah, if I can put the mine here, this would be best, because then I can get it directly to a roadway. So this also means that I want to put a research center in reasonably quickly. You love the nightlife, you like to boogie? There were going to be clubs added in this game, but I think that was something that was dropped after they updated the roadmap. So we'll say implied clubs. You just turn the light switch on and off in your habitat pod really quickly, right? So you just... This is how you get workers to boogie. I think I'm just gonna go and work in. I think I just probably successfully moved them to another pod in another building, but. Anyway, like I said earlier, we get influence, which we can use to get more tiles by bringing more migrants into the city corp. So this is a slightly different way from how I'd play, but this is definitely something that's going to help me in multiple ways. So let's go one of these, one of these. All right. This is actually probably going to take more. This is going to take more power than we probably have, but I'll worry about that later. Right now, I want to just try and generate as many credits as I can. Now, one question that might come up is, why am I activating all of these inert ruins? The victory goals of the game, you have to do certain things. So, for instance, Tier 1 is High Roller, so I need 24,000 credits. Tier 2, own a Purifier. Or, sorry, Tier 1 for the 4 different paths, or own an Air Purifier, or own 4 Fuel Silos. Tier 2, clear 8 resource patches. Now, we've already cleared the 8 patches, but because we don't have 24,000 credits, we're not any closer to... We can't actually claim that goal until we've got the lower level here. Landlord, own 4 residential buildings. We are going to be working on that, but that's going to take some time. Then there's also Impenetrable, to own 4 defensive turrets. Actually, come to think of it, I was going to put the defensive turret where the storage facility is, but that's fine. We'll shift it all over when the time is right. This one? It's serving its purpose. Actually, yeah, it's taking waste as well. So, all right, let's get some connections before we go too far. The other thing I want to do... Oh, yeah, sorry. So I may not actually have any examples of it here, but one of the potential victory conditions is having a certain number of activated inert ruins. So in this case, I'm kind of making a guess that this will happen, but I don't know. Like, it's a chance worth taking because the inert ruins give you good things anyway. All right. So if I want 20 influence to store some more fuel, or I could claim this one to store energy right away. It doesn't quite reach though, so not quite as much sense. Actually, I'm wondering why I need this pylon at all. Oh, because of the battery. Well, it becomes an activated relay, or an activated battery, but... That's my terminology, not the game's. Oh, we got the space for the other factories. Sorry, I'm trying to think whether or not I want the fuel or if I want to clear these out for the potential gains later. I think I'm just going to hold on and we will... Actually, the first thing I want to do is find a place to put the science building. I guess this works as well as anything. Should also probably clear out this minerals patch. And then once the work shift's over, I may also want to consider upgrading the fuel turbine and the energy plant. That'll knock everything down. So I've got, there's going to be a little bit of fancy footwork in terms of making the transition smooth, but maybe at the end of the work shift we'll give it a shot. I don't think we'll have enough to be able to upgrade both of them to tier 3, but we'll see. A lot of it's going to depend on whether or not these factories get built, though. And I think we're going to turn off the tier 3. Yeah, we're doing okay on tier 2s, but I think I'm actually going to turn off the tier 3. Now, remember how this used to be covered in garbage? I actually quite like how this has turned out here. One thing I might also be able to do is start demolishing some of the storage containers and the waste receptacles and such, but it's a little early for that. What I can do, though, is go back to HQ, So the HQ isn't actually connected to the roadways. So I'm trying to empty out things like waste receptacles and possibly the storage containers as well. But in this case, I can put things like fuel receptacles instead. We've got 200. Oh, actually, you know what? I don't think we have. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to power those. So if I'm going to put anything, it's going to be fuel. There we go. Didn't even need to upgrade this. Okay, 5 minutes before the end of the work shift. So upgrade the energy plant, upgrade the fuel turbine. So again, everything's draining down, but we've got 20k energy storing up, so we should be fine. All right, let's see how many of these work from home setups I can build. So again, there is a blueprint mode, but in this case, I'm not sure I have the resources for it, and it would actually be kind of nice for me to just regulate the power draw. That's weird. It says S. Oh no, it's small, right. I thought there was like a hotkey. Okay, then we put in the monetization stations. You should be able to finish at least one. So yeah, we're going to have to wait a while for the tier 2 minerals to show up. Okay, so this can go up to a tier 3. That's going to require 90 construction units. We can also move the energy plant up to tier 3. Now, the tier 3 plant is going to require 12 extra fuel. This is very helpful to note because we're currently generating 16. So we would actually be able to afford the fuel costs and move this up to level 3 right away. Is it a good idea to do that? I'm not 100% sure, to be honest, but fortune favors the bold. What's the goal of the game? World domination. Not very close. So the game has sort of changed a few different ways since it first came out. This is still in early access. The story of this game is that you are the founder of a city corporation on Titan. You've been given sort of this contract by this organization called the Council, who sort of runs the business on Titan, and are very wealthy and want to get even wealthier. I'm so glad you have no political power. Maybe if you had political power, they wouldn't feel the need for world domination. Basically, they want you to grow and get bigger. This game just recently got an update in terms of the corporate goals. So what you can do, you've now got 3 different types of victory in this game. There's a bronze victory to earn 25 points, silver victory to earn 30, and gold victory to earn 35. And what you can do is, as you start fulfilling these different goals, that's going to be getting you score. I think it says, yeah, so if you get a tier 1 goal, that's worth 1 point. If you've completed the layer before it, tier 2 is worth 2, 3, so on and so forth. And these ones will be kind of doing certain things for your city. So one of this says own 4 defensive turrets. This one says clear out 8 resource patches. There's a number of different things that you can get. You can actually spend money to unlock these faster. But you would want a minimum of 5 of these tier 5s. Of course, to get to tier 5, you have to do other activities, so that's a little bit of a lie. But basically, you'd want between 5 to 7 of these tier 5 goals, or a mix of them. Of course, it's a little bit of a lie to say 5 to 7, because as you notice, there's only 4 columns. So I guess what you'd get would be like 1, 2, 3. So yeah, these 2 would be worth 5. This one would be worth 4. So I guess it's 5, 5, and 5. So a full column, if it was stacked up, would be worth 15. So maybe say 2 full columns might be a better way of putting it. But in any case, you can achieve a certain number of goals, and you would be able to claim victory. Now, there is an endless mode in this where you can kind of see how long you can last. There's also a sandbox mode where you can just build your city and not worry too much about being a cyberpunk city runner. Well, I mean, you can run the city, but you don't need to worry about defending against the rebels. But the main goal of the game is to achieve the goals that have been set out for you by the council. But in order to achieve those goals, normally what you need to do is sort of expand out. You need to fight the rebels where you find them. You need to defend yourself from the rebels when they attack you. And then you also need to fight against a rival corporation, which is currently in the area for me too. Your lack of power creates a want for power. You're your own self-fulfilling prophecy. If only we could harness your ambition, we would have perpetual motion machine, infinite energy. So one of the things that I'm doing here, this is a special version that I'm playing where I'm getting influence, which is one of the currencies that the game has. I've built a whole bunch of places for all of my workers to live and work, because I get influence every time I import one. And so that's kind of why I'm spending all this time building houses. It happens to there we go. It's something that I can use to make my corporation even stronger. Speaking of self-fulfilling prophecies. Yeah, it's a neat way that they did it. The way the game used to work was that there's a certain number of rebel camps on the map. So we can see here that there's 6 rebel camps. So the old version used to just make it that if you destroyed all the rebel camps, you won. But that was always intended to be a temporary way of playing. And so they've started to add a little bit more to give you reasons to do more inside of the game. It's a really, I like this game quite a bit. Like, I like city builders. They're fun to play. But I think this has got a really neat setting. And as you pointed out, it's a very beautiful game. So, in fact, the art director on this game, Sir Karma, I believe this is his first game. So certainly a very, very talented team. How come I only have one road? Well, it's mostly just because, so the roads need to be connected to the transport hub. So generally the roads, now you can build more than one transport hub, but generally it's a good idea to have one big road network. For practical purposes, the reason why I built this road in the first place was to be able to connect to the mine. Now the mine has served its purpose. We've pretty much mined out almost everything that we need to. It's a little helpful in the sense that there's going to be trucks that are going to be able to clear out the waste inside of these work from home setups. But really all that I need the road for is to connect to things like the shipyard and the storage, basically anything that's going to be generating or refining goods. And so in this case here, I only have the one road because this is all I really need to connect to. There isn't a whole lot that I would want to connect to on this side yet. That is going to change in a little while. Incidentally, I am going to build some more buildings. So I definitely want a science lab. And I think I'm going to start with the residence. In fact, I'm just going to anticipate the fact that I'm probably not going to be able to do as much development as I want, and I'm going to clear out some of these factories that I improved. I'm just simply not going to be able to get to them, so I might as well clear out the space for the houses when I want to build them. Roads are expensive in this, but I have quite a bit of mineral wealth to be able to handle the cost. Although I suspect my workers are probably rolling their eyes at me a little bit for making them set up and then take down the factories. All right, so I'm going to build the similar work from home setup. So let's go one over here. Now again, there is a blueprint mode. I probably don't have enough resources to be able to use the blueprint mode, but it's, I don't know, I find it fun to build stuff anyway, so. So I'm starting with the habitat pods just because I can always build the monetization stations later, but I don't necessarily have access to the ships that are, oh, good lord, that's twice. I don't know if I'll always have access to these ships, so generally I like to get as much space for the workers early as I can, and then I double back and move up the... Oh, actually, I was just thinking. We upgraded the energy plant. We're probably really short on isotopes now. Yes, but I'm still going to build the big fuel turbine. And let's go shopping. So I just activated these 2 inert ruins, and I've got 37 left, so I'm thinking of places where I can put my science lab. Maybe here? If so, then it's okay for me to clear this out. I'm going to grab any of the minerals and isotopes I can find first. There we go. And yeah, I think I'm past due on building a science lab, so... So there might be some sense in putting a road. Okay. I am going to need the road here anyway, so I'm not going to like wrap it around the science lab or anything like that, but the reason why I want to build the science labs is that right now the mine doesn't quite give me the range that I need for the ideal mine. So if I can just push it a little bit more, that'll get me what I need for, like, the lab will be able to extend the length of the mine. Now, one thing I did ignore was the rebel threat. So the big problem with this is that I was originally saving a bunch of money to be able to build like a really big ship to defend myself. That's still the plan, but because I didn't give myself enough time with this rebel threat, they may actually attack before I'm able to do anything about it. So I gotta upgrade this energy pylon to be able to incorporate the battery. There's a few things I can try and do to help, sort of help mitigate that effect. One thing I can do is spend some money. So we'll buy 2 trucks. I can get more waste, I can generate more pollution, I can spend artifacts, although I don't have that much to spend artifacts on until I've got the science lab up. I want to make sure there's at least some room for maneuver beside the smokestack here. Okay, we're starting to get going with the science lab, but I will connect these before I go all in. I'm also going to turn this shipyard on. It's because I want a realistic idea of how much power I actually have to be able to work with. Good Lord, I have forgotten what it feels like to have a shaved face. It's the first time I shaved in 2 years. Taking a little getting used to. What are the little dots telling you about the ruins? Do you mean these things above? So this little marker here means waste. This little red test tube is the artifact. This little blue thing is the presence of minerals. No, I did, however, I have the friendly trucker because I can hide that under an N95 mask. And again, because I'm really annoyed that I have to go back to work, that will be my silent rebellion. Actually, if Olaf wants to see it, I think I could probably send it to Olaf, but I know most of you don't know what I look like, and it's fun to keep it that way. Yeah, we're totally going to get nailed by the rebels. I better hope that this ship is up to the task. I think there's actually 2 ships that come after us. Well, hold on to your hats. It's definitely not the first beard I've had before. Like I remember how weird it feels after having it for a while. This is definitely the like longest I've let it grow. Like I definitely let it go long and often quite unkempt. Because again, like it's a pandemic. You can.
Founder, shall we test your might against mine?
Please no.
Take him down, Founder. He's no match for us.
I think he is though. All right, we're gonna bring the loquacious adder. Theirs is not to question why. So the way combat works in this, this is the rebel attack that we were talking about before. So they are going to come somewhere off the map, probably from here, but not always. Now, if the enemy ship blows up over your buildings, they can catch fire, and we did actually have a heat wave recently, so that can make things kind of dangerous. Sorry, I'm going to pause for a second here because I can also get people doing some research. So, fire growth rate, burrow cost, resource patch harvesting rate, citizen ad revenue. This is tempting to move around, but looks like this will unlock another industry. So, well, actually, I want all of these, so we'll unlock these to start. Employee movement speed. Oh, there's that mine range. So I should actually research this because it will get me to my mine range faster. Unless, you know, there may be we could take a chance and go the other way around, but we don't actually need the tech web, but yes. So I'll explain it briefly, but I need to wait till there's an employee that moves into the assigned job. Okay, so we've got a scientist there now. So the way this works is you spend a red artifact to unlock sort of a branch, and then you need to research the tech before or scrap it. Generally, I prefer researching, even though it takes longer. But because this is kind of a guaranteed path towards the mine range that I need, I'm going to start by researching reduced fire growth rate. Now, apparently, it doesn't think there's a scientist here anymore. There we go. So we'll spend the 2 minutes or 3 minutes to research that, 2.5. And once I research that, then I can spend the artifacts to unlock the next branch in the web, or node in the web. In the meantime, I'm going to keep adding as many citizens as I can. Nope, there it is. All right, so this is the CS Unity we're up against. So again, we're going to fight this away from our buildings. Now, basically, it kind of looks like a fair fight. This is a little bit like FTL in that you can attack certain systems and you can gain certain advantages by doing so. In this case, I think going directly for the weapons, which is normally how I do this, is going to work. Another alternative I could try would be to take out their life support. The problem is that that's going to give them an opportunity to keep firing at my ship and my weapons. So in this case, I'm going to go for their ability to attack me before anything else. I think so. I think it's like 1 second, 1 minute. All right, let me just make sure these... Oh, wow, nope. Those priorities are... Okay, I gotta switch it then. We need people still manning the guns. Now I'm just gonna jump out of the combat screen to make sure that there isn't another rebel ship coming after us. No, I think they just bring us a stronger one. So again, we're just going to keep lobbing stuff at each other until they, one of us has our weapons taken out. But the good news is that I am going to be taking out their gunners, so you notice that their health is going down a little bit. And so I may wind up, kind of wind up just winning by attrition. So even though they're at 236 of 260, whereas I'm at 190 of 220, we've actually taken more damage than they have. We're probably going to win just by virtue of the fact that they are not able to preserve their crew. So if they go into their weapons, we wind up harming the crew. They don't have any way of healing them, and that's one of the reasons why I adopt this particular strategy. Obviously, my people do kind of run out and do repairs every once in a while, which is a bit of an imperfection, but you'll notice once they're back on gun number 1, this gunner's going to go down. This is more or less working as intended. Like, there should be one crew member running around putting out fires. The other two should always be raining down, fire on the enemy ship. Oh, we've got our research done, so we're gonna spend the money and get the HR upgrade. Now, this is nice because this is gonna give me an extra 10 employees that I can upgrade. So if we successfully take out these 2 crew members, we wind up, the ship will be destroyed automatically. I'm slightly adjusting the approach here just to try and take out got him. I want to try and take out their weapons as much as I can, as well as their crew. They might move before... Nope, they're going to move into the fire. There we go. So, ship automatically is just destroyed. I don't know if you noticed, but there were some light effects on the top.
You won't be next time.
But yeah, I do like watching the explosions because you can actually see the light effect on top of the ruins. But yeah, we were able to survive the rebel attack. But as a whole, I should definitely be investing more in my my defenses. So one thing I'm actually going to do is just slightly shift the location of the storage facility. It's actually going to be a little bit off the track for the smokestack, but it will allow me to put a defensive turret down. So we can start with that, assuming, well, you know what, we don't have that many tier 3. Well, we don't have that many tier 3 minerals, but we also don't need that much for a storage facility, so I will build it after all. All right, it was lovely seeing both of you again. I'm glad that you got a chance to see a little bit of Industries of Titan. Hopefully I get a chance to see you sooner rather than later, but I hope you have a wonderful, I was going to say evening, but it must be afternoon where you are. But thank you so much. It's always a delight to have both Momoko and Yuhana in the channel, and not least of all because I know you know Kite, and I like Kite a lot. So have a wonderful evening, or have a good day. Good day or night. If it's night, enjoy the nightlife. Okay. Let's think about next steps. So I definitely want to claim these ruins for the isotopes. These I might build a fuel turbine from. So this will cost us a total of 30, so I can afford that. We're almost done the HR upgrade. Actually, once this storage facility is built, I think I'm going to... Well, I should think about what I'm going to replace it with, but... I'm probably going to wind up demolishing the storage. So as you can see, just the rate at which we've been earning money has exploded, so I'm definitely going to continue down that path. Also, an extra 15% from the existing revenues I'm earning. Now, it does help, again, researching is not just giving you the tech, it also lets you see the next part of the web, right? So you don't want to just barrel through, like we do want the extra mine range for sure, but I don't want to just barrel through ignoring it. So for instance, Spokesman's HQ Plus, an extra HQ range is quite nice to get. Reduced fire pollution. You know, if I'm expecting a lot of fires, that's not bad to get, but maybe not an overwhelming priority. Better spaceport storage? Yeah, that's a pretty good upgrade. So let's say... yes. And I'm going to save the rest of the artifacts because I'm going to want to convert 10 more. Terrible urge to call the cash farm areas Twitch HQs. Yes, it is. So I got a chance to have a very brief talk with Andy Wynn about this. I don't think I'm talking out of turn when I mention it, but I really liked Sid Meier's memoir, which is called Sid Meier's Memoir. That's the title of the book, as well as what kind of book it is. And one thing that was kind of interesting about it was he talks about a number of different things that were attempted in Civilization, but ultimately weren't implemented. And one of the earlier things was the idea of randomized technology, right? So if you play Civilization, you have the benefit of knowing about history. You know that gunpowder was very effective and very important, and so you might want to sort of prioritize researching that, knowing in advance how big of an advantage it's going to give you. And that may not necessarily be like the experience of Discovery, where, you'll be going down a number of different paths and you're not entirely like, it's not like all of history was directed towards discovering gunpowder. I'm discovering it multiple times as it happens, but in any case, like, basically this is a path that didn't work. Now, one thing that's really interesting about Sid Meier's memoir, if you're interested in reading it, one, it's a good read, but number two, it's also I mean, we have at least one game developer in chat with Vanguard Master, but some of you may also be aspiring game developers and just haven't let us know. But one of the other things that's really interesting about this is if you read that book and take a look at sort of what's available inside of Civilization 6, it's almost like for Civilization 6 they tried to implement all of the things that earlier versions of Civ wanted to but couldn't make work. But in any case, like I said, I mean it when I say that the people at Brace Yourself are very nice and they're very interesting and accomplished people. And one of the things that was interesting about getting to chat with Andy Wynn for a little bit was we did get to talk about the tech web, which I think had just recently been introduced. And I got to hear that the civilization thing was actually discussed, and that in the case, the reason why it potentially works in Industries of Titan is because in the case of Civilization you have history as your marker, whereas in the case of Industries of Titan you're sort of looking forward, you're discovering new things, and that's one of the reasons why the tech web turns out. I mean, for me, it was just an interesting thing because it's something I'd quite literally just read in a book before about a game designer who certainly requires no introduction, not necessarily being able to deliver on it, and this feature being implemented in a game that I really enjoy. And in this case, I absolutely think that Brace Yourself made the right call. The tech web is a really interesting way of handling technology. I think it definitely keeps the game fresh. And I'm absolutely not burdened by the same sorts of considerations that I would have in a Civilization game in terms of, of wanting to sort of follow the path of history or sort of seeing things sort of play out the way that they quote unquote should. And again, I obviously need to give my apologies if I misrepresented the views or if I wasn't supposed to talk about that conversation, but I'm pretty sure that's been said somewhere else. So. Well, the thing that's interesting about Alpha Centauri is it does actually have a pretty clear path, I think. Like if I recall correctly, Alpha Centauri has a Civilization style tech tree. Now, what inspires it is very much more philosophy driven rather than necessarily like obviously you can't predict the future, so they shouldn't even try. But I guess in Beyond Earth they tried something that's a little bit closer to the Amplitude games. Sorry, I just knocked over my mic. Okay, an option. Fair enough. I may want to try the energy plant production, but again, I want to keep my artifacts for new workers. Okay. There is a question as to whether or not I want to build a defensive turret right now. I don't think I do, but I do want to buy the last few buildings. So we need an office here. So I need 1,000 more for the Council Obelisk, and then we're going to start... oh, no, sorry. 1,000 for the Council Obelisk, and then 2,000 for the different types of storage. Okay. I'm going to do something that will probably frustrate Algrins to no end. Blah! Blah! Ah! Ah! So we're getting near the end of my my reach. So I should probably clear the way out to this mineral node before long. So again, notice we're full up on citizens. We will eventually fill up on employees. And the real intention here is to, again, get ourselves built out to a point where we can take this isotope node. In fact, one thing I'll want to work on is I'm going to want to take out these ruins because I am going to need to expand my range to be able to... Actually, you know what? If I mess with the science lab, if I get the Spokesman HQ+, then I won't need to worry about that. Interesting. You will notice, though, I'm pretty much out of isotopes. That's a problem. I basically can't upgrade anything anymore. But that's fine. I've got the upgrades that I need. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. I should have dealt with this one. Yeah, so it's going to be lean for a little bit, but I think at this point we'll just get the conversions that we can done. We've got some more space on the ground, so make some more mess. A lot of this is just about like clearing out space for more things. In fact, I'm going to get kind of bold here. I'm going to kill a lot of my extra power. But it's not because I have no plans for it. It's just going to go somewhere else. Okay, so this is actually going to... Oh no, we'll be fine. So I'm just going to build another generator floor in the HQ. Nope, that's the right call. I'm going to be out of tier 2 minerals for a bit, but that's why it's one of the reasons why we're doing the expansion that we're going to be doing. Okay, so my citizens are going to drop periodically while the conversions are happening. Again, we've got lots of space available, so I'm going to start demolishing some of the waste receptacles. These are a little bit less of a priority to clear out just because the the storage isn't that far away. It's connected to a road, but I have the option, so So one of the things you'll also notice too is that we're starting to sort of run out of our original space. I'm doing little things to try and make the most of this area. I'm starting to kind of blob out horizontally, but which again is a bit unique for the way that I normally play. But I am finding it a little bit more effective, except for the occasional stumble that I make. Is there an overview or something where you can see a breakdown of all my building's inputs and outputs? So if I were to say like Cadence's workshop, how much in terms of minerals it's making, or are you talking about maybe something like the energy plant? Because definitely like in the grid, it's going to explain how much energy is used, stored, etc. If you want to understand exactly how it's working, energy generated 216, fuel status 48. You will also have the option when upgrading. It will usually tell you what it costs and what you get. So like in the case here for the shipyard, it consumes 24 energy. It supports 2 ships. But the one thing it won't tell me right now is the cost of building a new ship. I actually need to go in and select the ship to build because they're going to have different mineral requirements. Okay, so in this case, we are going to research Spokesman HQ Plus, just because that'll let me get the isotope mine up, and the isotope mine has become a bit more of a priority. After that, I do need to think a little bit about my next steps, so I think probably energy drinks for the movement is a good one to keep. And I think I'll go for the burrow cost. And then we'll do salary renegotiations. Pollution resistance might be good too. Let's see everybody's health. Yep, they're still fine. But yeah, sorry, Purple's Art. I may be missing the direction of where that question's going. So if I wasn't clear from what I said before, and I suspect I wasn't, just let me know, and I'll take another crack at it. I just might need a little guidance in terms of what you were interested in. All right, again, we got some free space, so we'll... One thing I'm worried about is just being jammed up with enough trash to like stop the production from happening. As long as that's not happening, I'm going to be okay. Ah. A little too far ahead of myself. So you're seeing a partial consequence of prioritizing cleanup over moving resources. Notice how many of these resources haven't been moved yet, but I actually do like the idea of all this being cleaned up first. I was asking more about the other resource flows. Credits, influence, minerals, isotopes. Can you see the individual contributions from the map? Not really. So if I click on Trainee Hut, for instance, it'll tell me the livability, it'll tell me the job desirability. From the overlay, I can look at the energy grid, transportation network, pollution, Zethane, and kind of the desirability of buildings. But what I can do is I can sort of take a look at the stocks and the flows by mousing over. So for instance, there are 68 citizens with jobs, 27 employees. So one is earning me 7,633 in terms of credits. after I pay for my employees at the end of the work shift, I'll net, sorry, I won't just net, but my ending balance will be 6,826. In terms of minerals, it's a little more complicated. It just tells you what your current levels are. So it would be kind of interesting to take a look at rates, but the problem with rates is that that's going to be determined by what you've told your workers to do as far as like clearing out inputs and all of that. Like sometimes sometimes slow progress on these things is a function of you not giving enough basically you're not giving enough attention to your production building. So like one thing I could do here would be to put some mandatory employees on like input mineral inputs, isotopes, and so on and so forth. I'm just kind of letting that run on its own for now. So yeah, just because there's a lot of things that will interfere with the overall production rate, I don't think they report the changes. I'll confess, one thing I do think would be kind of cool would be to get a graph of the rate at which certain things are happening. So like if you could see just generally how many minerals you're refining or something like that. I think that would be kind of neat. And I think it would be something that they could implement. I mean, again, I'm sort of speaking, it's easy for me to say, and then brace yourselves going to be the ones who actually have to implement it. So I don't want to, I don't want to be one of those like multiplayer is easy people. But like with that in mind, presumably you can record, the difference between the mineral level at period 1 and period 2 and have that be a graph, I only say that because some of you may know that I actually did collaborate on a game with Valiant Cheese, and one of the things I really wanted to put in, and it turns out one of the things he really wanted to put in, was graphs of productivity, because it was a game about toilet paper manufacture, basically. It's a little toy. And although I'm really happy that the economists that I've gotten to play it absolutely cannot balance the economy, I'm very amused by that. And it is slightly intentional. For those of you who've played it, if you want to know exactly how the game was balanced, I'd be happy to tell you, but I don't know if any of you've played it. But yeah, with that in mind, so like it was something I wanted to do. It was something he wanted to do. And we both contributed something to it, but basically Valiant Cheese is certainly a very talented guy, and he did a nice thing by sort of dragging me along for the development of this game. But if it's something that I could quote unquote do, admittedly in collaboration, it strikes me that it's something that is not as challenging as, say, implementing multiplayer. But the answer to your original question, Purple's Art, would be not really. If you want to know how things are changing, generally mousing over the resource that you're interested in will tell you what you need. But if you want to know about like your energy flows and things like that, that's something that's covered under the grid, and so they do report that. The other things I think change a little bit too much for that information to be helpful. Like, sorry, I don't mean to say that the information isn't helpful. I just think what would be reported might be a bit different from what you were expecting. Okay, am I reading this correctly, that this advanced filter is filtering out all of this? That's bananas, if that's true. I mean, wonderful for my residential area, but I don't think I've ever seen a filter pattern like that. The turbine still sort of makes sense to build here. But I don't get as much of an advantage from the crevice. I don't think anyway. Yeah, it's falling ever so gradually. Still, I mean, same thing's kind of happening here, right? It's not a whole lot of Zethane sitting in the area. Again, all of this is kind of academic because we're really short on isotopes right now. Research is almost done, though. So this one's public enemy number 1 as far as ruins that I want to destroy. Okay, I can buy up some more buildings. Okay, I think I'm going to save up for the different ship types. So we've got our Spokesman HQ Plus. I think I said I was going to do the burrow cost, right? I mean, the employee speed's nice. Yeah, you know what? Employee speed's fine. And then we can make our move towards the salary. Okay, so I'm going to use the hotkey to search the different ruins. That's just V. That's the first step in terms of getting the... that's the first step in terms of finding out what's there. So the reason why I can see those little dots over the ruins is because I've explored them. Now, you don't have to explore them to take an action on them. So, like, if you know you're going to extract them, no matter what, like, you just don't care about resources. You are under no obligation to actually see what's inside, but I will definitely say it's a really good idea to do that. Also, yeah, no, we're fine. You thought this game was going 1.0, or did I misremember that? Nope, you read correctly, but it will be doing that probably in November. So they've cut a few things from the roadmap, and then they've added a few other ones. One of the most interesting ones, actually, is campaign mode, because I think they'd actually said that it was sort of out of scope for the game very early on. But it actually turns out that that really seems to be something that people want, and it's in line with sort of what the vision of the game is now. I like some of the stuff that we quote-unquote lost. I say quote-unquote because we never had it. Factions have been replaced with bonuses inside the game. So, like, for all intents and purposes, they are like factions. They're just a slightly different way of handling it. The only thing is that I'm a little disappointed I don't get to read a bit more of the lore. And then some of the recreational buildings, and I think hospitals are still coming. But yeah, I think some of the recreational buildings and then like things like food and all of that has been taken out, and it's kind of been consolidated in some of the other things that they're working on. But yeah, there was a blog post about kind of getting ready to kind of put out the 1.0 version, and as a result, the roadmap has changed to sort of reflect what's going to be in 1.0. Yep, no, they just they definitely added some stuff in this, but it was to add the new victory conditions, which I'm slowly making progress on now. So we were talking about how we wanted to build a mine. Now I may have actually backed myself into a corner here. Yeah, because I'm short on the isotope CUs. Also, apparently, I'm one off. That's a big disappointment. So we may have to go back to the tech web and see. Like, I really need that. I really need those isotopes. So I don't know if I can afford to navigate the web. Well, here's a couple things I can do. I can claim any ruins that have the resources I want. So like I can build a mine here, but the thing is I want to be able to connect it with, I want to be able to connect it to the road network. I mean, the other option would be to try and get to this Isotopes patch, but there's really no other reason for me to be going up there. I can also just give up some of the artifacts in the various ruins here, but that makes me sad. So we'll wait for the 30 influence. And in the meantime, I do need to start thinking about command centers. Yeah, so I mean, minerals-wise, we're laughing. It's the isotopes that are keeping us behind. One of the other things I can try and do is just request isotopes from the council. Now, that's an expensive way of getting them. Hang on. No, we're fine for isotopes. I just need to change my waste priorities. I mean, they're doing a good enough job cleaning up the waste right now. I think I can probably just let that run. Change my mind. I will put move resources a bit higher. It is kind of telling, right, that I've got 32 employees and I don't have that many idle workers right now. So I'm going to want to think a bit about some of my next steps. Actually, how are we for... Oh, God. We don't have, like, any tier 2 minerals. Okay, well, I've got enough to build that defensive turret without feeling too bad, so I can't upgrade it to what I want. At least not now. I think we're just going to hit fast forward for the next little bit and let everything run. So if I have an opportunity with the ships, we'll definitely take it, but right now I just want the tech to do its thing. Although we do have some extra artifacts available, so let's say... Gatling gun will be fun to equip. Okay, so we can turn off the... Well, I'll staff it and then turn it off. I'm hoping I get a chance to do a call to arms so I can show you how the citizens react. It's actually a really fun... it's a really fun reaction. So that just fills up my citizen pool. I'm actually quite happy about that. And I was looking for... Oh. So it looks like we did fill up our waste. That's a bit of a shame, to be honest. Although maybe not so surprising, because we did have a bunch of stuff in our storage. Yeah, actually, this is not nearly as bad as I thought. Okay, so we've upgraded both of these. Probably makes sense to upgrade the smokestack and the science lab next, so that I can move faster on both. There's probably some value as well in... Sorry, I'm taking a minute to think. It's 4, but they're high quality, so... I'm trying to think if I want to go so far as to build another fuel turbine with where we're at right now. After we'll grab these isotopes out of the ruins. Yeah, I think I'm gonna play chicken with the isotope shortage a bit. Because honestly, the thing that's really gonna... Oh, that's so interesting to see so many people idle. It's probably because of the storage. Which is a bummer, if that's true. Okay, so we've got the movement speed. I've already converted them, so that doesn't do that much for us. We never know when we're going to use the burrow. It's probably better to have that in my back pocket. So there's a side of me that thinks maybe we expand out to this ruin monument. We don't have the power for it right now, but I think we can probably get away with building another power plant. What else? We could build a command center to kind of give me control over this mineral node. That's actually probably the smartest thing for me to do right now. So I could put a command center here, which would take me back 1 slot, or I could put the command center here. That should give me enough. Again, this is a really tough spot because there's this sinkhole in the way. Oh, that's interesting. Are you kidding me? Huh. That would kind of suck for the residential areas, unfortunately. Okay, yeah, we're safe. Okay, so we will build our command center right here. I could buy the last truck. Again, I'll upgrade all of this when I can, but... Okay, I'm not 100% sure how I feel about what I'm about to do here, but let's take our conversion capsule. We'll toss that in here. So I'm going to ditch the isotope components. I'm going to sort of streamline this line. And this is going to be a bit of a stopgap for a factory that I want to make through other means. Okay. So basically you're going to see some symmetry in terms of the layout. Now I do need to worry about the storage containers. They are going to be in the way for a little bit, but... Okay, now I gotta put those storage... and finally... I can't remember why this works, but this... Oh, right, because the energy bridge. No, that still doesn't make sense to me. I'm gonna wait till everything's built before I demolish this, but if it means that I can, duck building another relay here, so much the better. Oh, I messed up. That's supposed to hold isotopes 1. That's supposed to hold isotopes 2. This is supposed to hold isotopes 3. So this is going to be a mess for a little bit. It also looks like everything's ground to a complete halt. Okay, well, clearly it was premature for me to get rid of the storage containers. So let's just take the L and we'll build a replacement over here. Again, this is all free territory for me now, so I was kind of hoping to be able to build some secondary like construction in terms of the minerals and isotopes and all of that, but I have other ways of making that work. Sadly, no closer to that extra range. Okay, clearly something's not working. So if I turn this thing on... Nope. Okay, so I roughly know what else I want to do with this. Now, you notice I got rid of all the waste receptacles in the area here. It's not so much that I don't want to have waste receptacles, it's that I want them to be in sensible places where they're not, like, taking up other important slots. So for instance here, I have to put some kind of a relay down to be able to keep the conversion center working. This is maybe not the best place for it because, you know, like overall coverage, I can do better, right? But I'm going to stick it here for now. And then, you know, if this winds up being a more permanent home, well, we can stick a waste receptacle there. I am, however, going to have enough space. Oops. I am going to have enough space to build another conversion capsule because I'm holding off on building my really big buildings for a little bit longer. That means I'll try and make the most of my my factories. And again, this is just me kind of experimenting with different ways of playing and seeing if there are, you know, better paths to growth, particularly when I'm able to take advantage of the improvements to influence by taking more migrants. All right, this thing's still being built. I think I'm going to continue to clear the path for the... Oh, sorry. Still want to get my isotopes. I'm going to continue to clear the path for what will eventually become the mineral mine. I'm ignoring the isotopes here just simply because I feel like I'm going to be able to handle... Given enough time, I'm going to be able to handle the isotope situation. It's less clear, though, what happens if I run short of artifacts. And I am going to be pretty aggressive in terms of bringing in more employees. There is actually one thing I can do to make life a little easier for me. Actually, better still. I just need the 10 for the ruins here. Because I expanded my HQ, I can actually move this smokestack 1 unit down. That way I can get a road. I can put a storage facility here. Okay, this is actually getting interesting. There's a side of me that wonders maybe now if I should try building another work-from-home setup, replace one of those ones that I tore down earlier. My constraint right now really isn't... Not spending that. Feels a little dumb to be wasting the pylon like this, but... I'll stick it here for now, and then we can refine as we go by. But yeah, like, so the plans changed. I'm going to be waiting for certain types of research for a while. I mean, I may change my mind and move around, but let me just take a second here. All right, on to the next phase. Big hull. And you know what? Instead of getting more types, I am going to build one of these things. I'm going to start using my money to upgrade the spaceport, and then we'll also use it to upgrade the council when the time comes. I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to start donating minerals. I think I'll leave it be for now. A 1,000 construction units of minerals seems like a lot, right up until you go on a spending spree, and then you wonder where they all went. It's so disappointing. All right, now the really tough part here is going to be navigating this command center. Because I want to upgrade it, but again, remember, we only have so many isotopes, like total isotopes left. Obsidian. So I think for now I'm just going to leave this as a simple command center. Again, the idea here is really just to establish the mineral node, and then eventually we're going to try and you know, put in the mineral refining and all of that. But we're currently getting that in Cadence's workshop. So, you know, I could be doing worse as far as production is concerned. Getting a source of, like, to give you an example, if I had an option of giving up something in order to get that extra range on the mine, I would. Like, being able to get a reliable source of isotopes is a pretty high priority right now. One thing I guess I can do is... Oh, what was I thinking? That takes... I just stupidly gave up influence for no reason. We'll speed it up just so I can build my influence back. Oh, but we did do our salary renegotiations, so... research efficiency is something I'm interested in. Yeah, it's probably the best path for me to follow, given the current circumstances. So yeah, we'll again speed things up. I'm really just trying to get these ruins so I can demolish the smokestack and build a better outfit. Okay. So the idea here is, okay, gotta wait for 4, I think.
Extraction complete.
Basically, moving the smokestack back is going to give me 1 extra square on the road. Against my better judgment, I'm going to dismantle it here. Okay. So smokestack requires 2. Yeah, we're in good shape. So basically, I'm able to access this storage facility now. In theory, no, this is the right one. So this can be dedicated to waste. This can be dedicated to something other than waste, say, you know, minerals and isotopes, for instance. And then we've freed up the path for what will ultimately become the mine and the refining operation. Okay. If I went for the HQ masher, that's a lot of mineral ones. There is absolutely no way I am going to... There's no way I'm going to build it that way. I'll make a new design for this when the time comes, but I'm not quite ready to invest in this ship. Okay, so this is exclusively for waste. The idea here is that this is about as close as I can get to the smokestack. So, you know, when the smokestack's not active or when it's full, we move all the waste there. There's no supplemental play. Like, obviously we'll have to work down the existing storage, but that'll sort of take care of itself over time. And oh, that's interesting. Oh, I see why. Yeah, because there's all this waste here. I'm gonna trust the plan. Although I guess in a pinch I can always turn off the storage container. Oh, that only gives me 2 more workers, huh? It's a lot of energy to be spending We'll go for it, though. Like, more workers is going to be the thing that lets me... it's going to be, like, what enables all this extra stuff to happen. Okay. This is only temporarily idle, so I won't worry too much about that. We currently have 20 free workers. Now, again, under clean waste, there's like 200 jobs, and there's a lot of resources to move, so I don't think I want to mess around with the current set of orders. What I can do, though, is continue to work towards our goal of a mineral mine. And maybe at the 60% level, we'll start thinking about how I can... I mean, actually, one thing I can start doing is building some weaponry for the for this ship. I'm still gonna need to figure out what else I want to do with the ship, but that's a start. I'm gonna try a sort of a trick to the design here. I'm gonna stick a couple crew pods, so this should still give it access to the engine to be able to repair it. Powering all of this is going to be a little bit of a bear, but I'll worry about that later. Like I said, I don't want to go all in on developing this ship until I've dealt with some of my other priorities. Okay, throw more bodies into the smokestack. I suspect this will be a very long-term transition for this thing to go from having waste to not, but I also trust that they'll be able to manage that on their own. Okay. This might be the time for me to wrap it up. I need some more influence to be able to grab the stuff that I really want. But yeah, let's talk about what the next steps for this is going to be. Again, remembering that Industries of Titan and Phantom Brigade are now on a sort of a different update path where it's not going to be monthly updates. The game's still going to get, like, it's still going to get its update messages. They're still going to be working on it. But essentially, I have a feeling that probably oh, did I... Wait, no. Did it really just get 2 crew members assigned to it? That's really funny. I'm rather surprised they were able to do that because there's no life support for this ship. But yeah, I kind of get the feeling that with the release coming, that the idea of like having to build your updates around sort of this milestone, this you know, deliver an update on this particular date was probably getting in the way of sort of focusing on the things that they thought were most important. So I have a, I mean, again, I'm making a guess here, but I have a feeling that's probably why it's taken the form that it has. But it does make things a little bit easier for me in the sense that I don't need to worry as much about, you know, cramming in some extra streams before the new victory, like before a new update comes up. And I like that particularly because obviously I've been kind of truant in terms of getting to the victory conditions, which have been added in some time ago at this point. So overall, what's the deal here?
Conversion complete.
Yeah, so I got 2 free workers as a result of that. Although I having a little trouble as far as the getting the replacements are concerned. But yeah, what the thing that's nice about this for me is that I'm going to be able to spend a bit more time on the different games. I will still probably follow through on playing the game when the updates come out. But it's I don't quite feel the same. I don't feel quite the same pressure to like really get to, period X, Y, or Z within a certain stream. I try not to let that affect the playthroughs too much anyway, but it's just nice to have a little bit more breathing room for some of the stuff. Thank you, Purple's Art. I appreciate that. And again, thank you. Were you looking for a reply to your earlier comment? Because I'm totally going to use you and Cranky as like a nice, or not Cranky. I don't think Cranky would write something nice on my YouTube videos. You and Olaf, if you're expecting replies, I'll definitely give them. But I'm using you as a screen for the stuff that's just making me feel not very good. Again, I just need to get over myself and get a grip. But I'm in a fragile mood. But yeah, if you want to reply, I'll do it, and it'll just bump a couple nasty things up the queue. But yeah, as far as what no replies required. Thank you. But the what was I gonna say? So I'm gonna, when I can, fill up the citizens. So this is kind of a luck of the draw, right? I'm going to have 3 slots available, so I have a feeling that we're going to see a lot of ships come by that aren't going to fit the bill. I'm not going to completely stop improving the City Corp. Obviously, there's room to grow, so we'll probably put some fuel turbines here. I will, in fact, I'll also have to think about power, so maybe we'll put a power plant here. Actually, maybe I'll hold off on putting the power plant there because I do have the opportunity for putting a highway through if I get rid of this energy pylon. And given that it seems like this is also a relay, yeah, so I need to power this tank. But I have a feeling that I'm probably going to be able to power all this stuff through other means. So this will probably just get a big revision like across the board. But there is the possibility of me building a highway. So the normally I'd be putting a fuel turbine here, but because of the filter, this maybe isn't the smartest place for it, especially if I'm putting the fuel turbine here. But yeah, fuel turbine here and a power plant here is probably going to help me be able to build a bunch of residential and commercial buildings. And then, of course, in Cadence's workshop, we'll be able to demolish the conversion capsules and either turn it into a full production line, or alternatively, we'll be able to... Did I just get more crew members on this thing? I can do something that will kind of give me this big stream of employees by like adding them to the ship and then converting them and then adding to the ship and converting them. But I try not to like deliberately mess with the game like that. Like I'll take advantage of a few cheesy little things if I can. But yeah, I mean, part of this is just a holding pattern. Like, so in reality, the holding pattern is just seeing if I can get that 1 extra mine range, if it's possible. If it's not, then I'm just going to have to, bite the bullet and have a slightly less efficient isotope, mine. The thing I'm trying to do here is find a way to be able to get a highway to the mine for the isotope node, and the closest I can get the mine right now is here. What I'd like is to be able to build it, in one of these 3 slots. These are not available, so I have to get it here, and unfortunately it's just shy of where it needs to be. That's actually really weird how... I guess it has to cover the whole node. Because like you can see that it would partially cover it. I wonder if that's true. Man, what gives there? Oh, maybe you just have to cover one of two? Yeah. Yeah, so if you cover one, you don't get it. If you cover two, you do. What an interesting rule. I mean, it makes sense. This is the problem with any, like, square-based game, right? Diagonals kind of wreak havoc with your plans. That's why in, like, you know, some games that don't correct for it, like moving diagonal just lets you move so much faster than all the other units. But I'm assuming there's probably a similar principle for the mine range. It's inconvenient for me right now, but I will grudgingly accept that they probably made the right call. Anyway, sorry, I'm babbling. But yeah, I'm kind of running a holding pattern until I can get the research that I need. If it really comes down to it, I'll expand to the isotope node that I want. And then, once I've got the isotopes, then we start moving vertically. But what I'm trying to do right now is say, it's like, okay, well, right now I've got enough space to be able to grow horizontally, right? If I want more, workers, or if I want more money, I just build another work from home factory. And that's working reasonably well for me now. I'll probably want to build some conversion centers because those aren't really working out. But, I can stick a conversion center back here. That's not a problem. I might even do that now, or in next run. So yeah, I mean, it's a chance for me to try something new, and then number two, it will potentially allow me to build an even more efficient operation. The only thing I'm a little bit worried about is that I've really been slow to take on the rebels. I'm going to pause just because we're crossing over the rebel threat level. So I'm not too worried about our objectives. I'm quite confident. I mean, I just need to build an air purifier. And when I find a good spot for an air purifier, I'll build it. I don't see a lot of value in just building one for the sake of building it. I'm definitely going to have 4 residential buildings. So there's no surprises or no worries there. I've actually got 1 defensive turret now. Clearly I need 4. And actually, I also need them to be powered. So that's another factor. Like, all of these things are pretty straightforward. But just to give you an example, like to give you an idea about why this isn't as big of a priority to me. If I were to get every single one of these goals, right? So these are worth 3. So this is 9, 6, so 15, and then 3, 18. We're still not going to be able to get victory. And that's, again, assuming that I were able to build 3 ships and, retain 130 citizens and so on and so forth. So because I know that I can't really get victory right now, I'm building the groundwork for that victory, but I'm a little less worried about sort of really nailing it as far as, taking, sorry, I'm not being clear. Like, I want to make sure that I'm able to activate this stuff over time. So for instance, high roller. Yes, I want to make sure that by the time I want to activate all of the victories that I've gotten in this column, I want to make sure that I'm not like just breaking even as far as credits. I want to be generating credits kind of at the rate that I am right now. Again, owning an air purifier is not difficult. Owning 4 residential buildings probably already along my plans. I haven't been doing much with fuel silos, mostly because even though I haven't built fuel silos, I've got storage for 14K. So, I don't need to worry so much about that. One thing I am going to do, I'm just going to improve my fuel generation a little bit. I'm sure there's a little bit, some refining I could have done with that, but And yeah, I mean, I think probably what I'll do is once I have, so the plan is going to be there's going to be a mine and essentially a factory that looks like this, but only for isotopes on this end. And there's going to be an equivalent for minerals and mineral refining. And then they'll have their own little, like, I'll put a defensive turret, like an energy, energy generator. Basically give like a little, just its own little city, maybe without residents. But once those are built, essentially the plan is going to be to start building a very strong fleet to start moving out and moving towards the rebels. And those fleets can come from, I think I'd be able to get a shipyard inside here. A lot's going to change once I'm able to upgrade the command centers and such. It's one of the reasons why isotopes are such a big deal. But I actually kind of like the way that this has turned out for this map because it's forced me to make better use of the land that I currently have here. And I think I actually also owe Olaf a thank you for starting me off on this location because I have a few different constraints than what I would have been dealing with on the map I was originally planning, and it's been kind of fun to try and deal with all of this. Anyways, I did say I was going to wrap up. It's actually quite late compared to where I wanted to end, so thank you all for watching. While I find somebody to host, I do have a question for some of you. I think particularly among the group that would be interested in Industries of Titan, but I think also just the people who generally like watching my stuff. I have a feeling that some of you may have checked out this game, but have any of you checked out Clanfolk? Or like in general, just is this on anyone's radar? And if it is this something you would be interested in seeing me play? Sorry, I'm just taking a minute here to find a channel to host. Chocolimi says, and also, hello. You'd like to see me play? Cool. Because I know some people have been mentioning that they'd like to see RimWorld, which I do have now, and I'm not opposed to streaming RimWorld. But Hooded Horse did reach out with a key for Clanfolk, and I would like to cover it, but I'm also curious. I'm ambivalent. I feel like you already have a lot on your plate. Yeah. Well, this is the thing. I'm going to host Kilgore, by the way, but I did just want to briefly address Immortal Velity's comment. Yeah. So that was actually the very first thing that I said to them, which was, first of all, thank you very much. Like, I'm really stoked that I don't need to bug them because they are a developer I'm really interested in, and I really appreciate that they're reaching out to me. Being able to, like, I'd like to sort of reward, the same way that I do brace yourself stuff so frequently. I like being able to do that. So where I can, I like to sort of cover what I can in terms of what people are giving. But as you say, there is quite a bit on my plate. So it's not like an immediate term kind of promise. But the thing is particularly, so one, when I'm given a key, and number two, because it is lined up along with something that people have said they'd like to see me play, i.e. RimWorld, it's just one of those things I kind of note in the back of my head that, okay, this is something I should be checking out. I do intend to get back to Imperium's Greek Wars. I do want to do Out There. That was what I was going to do when the Rogers outage happened. There's definitely a lot more that I'm going to do. And one of the things that I want to start doing is focusing on games so that I can like knock them down. But that's going to take me a little while to figure out. But I kind of wanted to see how people felt about Clanfolk just because the opportunity will be coming up. Also, because while I will be going to work tomorrow, like physically going to work tomorrow, I have also taken the Friday off for my birthday. So I do intend to stream on Friday, and I know Takri mentioned something that they'd like to see for the broadcast. So I've booked a little bit for that, but on Friday it's going to be a lot more free form. I'm probably going to jump over to a bunch of different games. If there's something that you'd like to see, let me know. But because I've taken the day off, I'll have a little bit more flexibility. But with that in mind, I do need to so I need to wrap up the stuff I wanted to do later. I also need to finish half of my dinner. But yeah, let me properly sign off. If you enjoyed this and you have not yet followed the channel, please consider doing so. I'm also followable on YouTube, youtube.com/systemchalk. We're hosting Kilgore Trout, who's currently playing the Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall, the Unity sort of version, the update, the one that allows you to mod it. If you like Industries of Titan, we'll be back with that on Wednesday. And if you just want to see a big old batch of things, I am going to be reading something on Friday for sure. You can stop by Friday. I have no idea what time it'll end, but we'll run with it as far as we can. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out, and we'll see you in a couple days.